Sunday that again, it's Sanjay to Newsom Bakishi, the Shinhumbo, some Tawaiba, that they more machine do. Then a Maraba say again, Nanzuji later Numong Zawa. What at the Maraba song, then Korwa Zawa Maraba in Mare. T Maraba, T Debner, then a Korwaki, the rain, a junior Sobaki, then now, so what you might have been loving me.
So, generally when we talk from the perspective of secret mantra Vajrayana, we say that our body is the mandala of the awakened ones, the mandala of the Buddhas. That within our body, the 100 peaceful, wrathful deities, the Shito mandala, already abide within our own body. For example, of the 42 peaceful deities, the peaceful deity mandala abides in the heart center, in the chakra dharma in the heart. And in our throat chakra of enjoyment, the pure intrinsic awareness holding Vidyadhara deities abide. And at our crown of our crown of great bliss, all of the wrathful deities, the Hirukas, the wrathful deity mandala, abides. So actually, this very body of ours is already, in the pure nature, it's already the mandala of the peaceful and wrathful deities. And so if now we are meditating and practicing on the deity, and we do Dharma practice, and we study and we learn, and we can recognize this nature now, then this is where you see like people who right now during the course of their life, before they even leave behind their body, they achieve rainbow body attainment in this lifetime, becoming Buddhas. So in secret Mantrayana, this is a phenomenon that occurs. So this is all, many of these are related to this. But when we don't recognize this, that our bodies are the mandala of the deity and so forth, then we are just ordinary, total ordinary, because then we have all these distinctions, like I and me and them and him, and this me and my body and this body of flesh and blood and so forth. And then we have all these concepts and ideas like, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is my enemy, this is my friend, oh, this is me, this is him. And so we have so much ideas, so much attachment and clinging, and so much grasping to realness, grasping to things as being real. And then all kinds of poisons of attachment, aversion, all of these arise. And then we have so much attachment and aversion, we accrue all kinds of negative karma. And that's why we cycle endlessly in this samsara, which is like set that keeps turning, keeps spinning. But actually, all sentient beings, their bodies are the mandala of the Buddha. And their minds have never been separate from Buddha's mind. They have always, their minds are the nature of Buddha, pure mind. But what happens is, we don't recognize this, and not recognizing this is the definition of ignorance. We say ignorance. Ignorance is the root of karma and emotional poison. Well, because we are obscured by this ignorance, then all the arising of like the 12 links of interdependence and all of this arise. All of this comes from that, not recognition.
When I'm so thin and you have also in Bayana, the Bardo can now share in Bayindi, Tambo de lo, the Rana in Hako, that I need to run the little joke, but so serve the man, I need Pavimba, Sharimba, what they have on the way. And then I need to Tambo Rana in Bashi, Rana de, and it is Denver Madopish. And it did Denver Madopaking nowadays, and the Tabat good and Ishika Nawaimba. 那个人因吧， 산지에다 산주 선박을 꺼내서 샤용바 시용바 이마이나 그래서 바도기 아니 근데 다 나와나 저거 가지게 샤용바 이나 이제 까지 해도 나서 대박 제거를 뭐 제거를 근데 때때는 나서 아니 저 건력을 양일력을 근데 가와다 또 제거를 근데 아니 저 대박 제거를 때때는 더 거는 때문에 가시는
So, hearing this and understanding this point is extremely important. Because, for example, if we have an understanding of this, then when we are in this Bardo state, then we will know, we will understand that this is our own self-arising of our own self-nature, the self-appearance. And then we know it's self-appearance, and we know that all of these are already abiding in our own body, simply appearing to externalize themselves on the outside, but they're simply the projection, the arising of our own nature. So first, we recognize this is our own nature arising, our own self-nature, self-appearance. And then we recognize this self-appearance is not inherently existing outside of us. And then we recognize that all appearances are arising as the pure deity form, the wisdom embodiment, the forms of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all of these. And when we recognize this, we don't feel any fear. We feel faith and we feel devotion. And then on top of this, that's where our meditation comes in. And then we feel great joy, great enthusiasm, devotion, faith. And through that, this is how we become liberated. So that's why it's so important to understand the kiss instruction for this.
Then that's Tambutena. And it, you're not an that's Sunday. Number Namze, Kota Jivani, doing the number of hat. They took a name, then it old Tangaji, then the nuns okay, and it so the soul and it will and you jump down, ziggy down, then it old Tangaji, so sharing. Then an answer Chita, Uso. And then the two book of vacation come and draw a lamp day, but they the yonder, then answer there. And then draw to crawl the geoki, like a whoop, and the unplug the geok lamp, whoop carbo, that delicate down, Namra Jam never, Shiva, Jambo, the new Wuni, so the delivered source of this. Then it dig up la. The kitchen. Long.
Oh, Parola Chidosda. The Ucho Tubo could be Shinkam Drake. The
Tamusandi number Namze, the Harry race, from number Namze.
Oh,
the Jawaman number Namze. The Togane, old Tangaji, so the source of Harry Yoris. Do you tell a paying to jump down Yoga? And it open or Zen not so was Zen not so by you, David. Namzer change it in the chat. Then it did a yam the nuns on Roger drop the Jewaki, La the Jewaki, and then oh, couple the Hagris. Do you tell a hope, Shawa, Jambo, in the who need done at the Nibisharing race? That take up so, and then Mamboji. Tago, down, ziggy, Sanangi, Dela Jana, then Dela Pai Yorna, then Okaro, Shawa, Jambo, what a DJ and Dan Roshua, then this DJ the song so I may not, I'm on Crow and Jena, Liola Jane over this. The DJ you may do that dig out la, that's Sunday number 100 day, and it that Nanduchi, so Sunday the Sanju Samba, you don't love a lot. 아니 소소 대에니지 조금 남았다 소도 던져 나가다 샤런데 되는 산제 남았는데 소라다 다리 뒤토가는 샤르 용화게 옥담당데 데마 어떤 디제네 송나 다른 저 넘버 10한테 디제네 송데 산제 넘버 함제 그 토가 템토가 이마이나 되는 우소 또 보고 그 생각 그랬더니 나는 좀 넘버 좀 상대하라고 그래 되는데 다 오니도 담니 다 대담야도 너니는 말이지 오 가로데 손은 나서 라이어를 지는 데 라이어다 나는 콜바리 데인데 오 담당의 대바텔 지다 만지 데는 마자나 아니 지대가 대바세 소르왔다 아니 데라나니 데 덴버 마도 시바 데 산제 생각는 로와들랑 이바 시나 딜오 데게 죄네 데 산제 나바 남제 토가 나서 나피데 파고 다른 포토 바이메 바이나 나서 다다는 우소 또고고 비신하는 뭔가가 상대하는 그래서
맞아. So the first thing, the first arising, as out of the 5 Dhyana Buddha families, will be the appearance of Buddha Vairochana, or along with the retinue. And so Buddha Vairochana will appear, and from Buddha Vairochana's heart, light rays will emanate out, ray of light. But these light rays will be very bright, very, very sharp, very brilliant, like extremely, like bright, intense, brilliant, sharp light rays that are blue in color. And these will touch to you. And this is the path. These light rays, these brilliant, bright, blue, intense, brilliant light rays are the path to the Pure Land of Tupokopa, the central direction, Vairochana's Pure Land. So at the same time as these blue light rays, the very, very intense, sharp, overwhelmingly bright rays of light, which are the path to liberation in the Pure Land of Tupokopa, at the same time as these are shining forth to you, at the same time there will be simultaneously another light, another ray of light, which will, out of the 6 realms in samsara, correspond to the rebirth in the God's realm, the Deva realm. And this will be a very, very soft, gentle, white light, like a soft kind of, not very bright or brilliant or intense, just a soft kind of gentle white light. And that gentle, soft light is not very bright, and that's the path to the rebirth in the God's realm. So if you do not take the path of the brilliant, bright, sharp light, but instead go down to the soft, comfortable light of the white light, then you will get stuck back in samsara and will wander, taking rebirth in the God's realm. And so at this time, if you recognize that the Buddha Vairochana appearing there, the rays of light, if you recognize this is the deity, and you know that this is the shining of the deity body arising in front of you, and you go to this bright, sharp, intense light from the heart of Buddha Vairochana, then your consciousness, if it goes down that path, will dissolve into the heart of Buddha Vairochana, and you will become a Buddha in the central Pure Land of Tupokopa. And so that's why here, do not be afraid of the light, the sharp, brilliant, intense light. Pray and supplicate and recognize it as your own self-arising, self-appearance. Know that it is Buddha Vairochana. And then if you go to this bright, brilliant light, your consciousness will dissolve into the heart center of Buddha Vairochana, and you will be transferred into the Pure Land of Tupokopa and become Buddha there. That's why when you have the shining of the 2 lights, one corresponding to liberation in the Buddha field, the really bright light, and then one softer light corresponding to rebirth in the samsara, you cannot make the mistake of choosing the wrong path. So this is really the crucial point. Because if you choose the soft white light, then you will go in the God's realm, and that's still in samsara.
Then, that did then draw matter by Mayana. Then Shanibala, Sunday, and the Dodges and Makondo Gabo. What on the Doji court the Shayam, young 뒤에 다가나 이게 이제 도저 선박을 도가네. 근데 어제 야 가다 서로 지금 나가 지는데 어제 제가 소소 그냥 가라 소소. 근데 대단냠도 아주 이제 니어와는 로게 랑바 다다데 생각 안에 셔서 멤버가 생각하는 로게 랑 도저 선박 안에 어제 가고지 되는 비샤리인데 이 대단냠도 아주 니어와는 제와 랑 근데 다다다네 오 양 두칸 나고 양 대는 시와 jambu 대니 이제 전 소셜이는데 근데 양지 아주 바드 냠니 매가 가자 터소에나 오 담담담 천낭지 진리를 짜는 오 냠부 디제는 로 쇼고노 대데다 나란조 딘지 많이 봐 아니 네 아니 도지 선발 차런데 아니 이제 상제다 상주 선발 아니 다저 도지 선발고 건지 성선 아니 대다 대바세 모부세 아니 디파두가 나와서 라나이 봐 라나 덴버 모델 거니 봐 what 된지 som당나 아니 다리 오 담담다 제바 아니 도지 선발고 토가 디오 그 라네 제나 도지 선발고 토가 나는 보고 남시다 파포 토가 임바이나 아니 샤송 넘버 줘 그. 넘버 가고 그 생각하는 상자 또래 근데 오 나고데 시원 정보도觉得 송송아 이마에는 나도 녀가 다가랑 녀가 지내고 그래야 돼. 어떻게 오니마 나로 봐. 되는 거야. 어떻게 진리셔.
So then if we are unable to be liberated in that first stage, then on the second day, then there will be the arising of the Buddha Vajrasattva, surrounded by the Vajra family deities. And when Buddha Vajrasattva arises, then from Vajrasattva's heart, a ray of light that is white and brilliant and pulsating and intense and very sharp and brilliant. This sharp, brilliant, white, intense, radiating, pulsating light will touch your heart, will emanate from the heart center of Buddha Vajrasattva and touch your heart. And at the same time, there will be another light path, which will be the path to the hell realms. And so this brilliant, bright, vivid, shining white light from Buddha Vajrasattva's heart center, if you go down that path, that's the pathway to liberation in the eastern Pure Land of Mumbargawa, Vajrasattva's Pure Land. But at the same time as this path is arising, there will be a very soft, comfortable light that's kind of like smoky, black-colored light. Very gentle, very soft, and that is the pathway to the hell realms. These will appear simultaneously. So for a person who doesn't have any experience with Bardo practice or Bardo instruction, this person might be threatened or afraid of the brilliant, intense, pulsating white light from the deity's heart, and might be more comfortable to go down the softer, gentler, duller light, leading to rebirth in the hell realm. So at this time, when Buddha Vajrasattva is arising, recognize this is the Buddha, the forms of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas arising into the body of Vajrasattva, and have faith and have devotion. And recognize that all the appearances of the Bardo state are your own self-appearance, the projections of your own nature, that they are not really inherently existent, they are own self-appearance. And then if you are able to go to that bright, shining, vivid, sharp, white light, then your consciousness will be able to transfer into the heart center of Buddha Vajrasattva, and you will be reborn, or you will be liberated in the eastern Pure Land of Mumbargawa. But if instead you are afraid of the sharp light and you go down to the softer black light that's gentler and duller and softer, then you will, then you will go to the hell realm, rebirth in the hell realms. So again, make sure not to make a mistake in choosing the brighter light, not the softer light.
ane dewarak nga kanane ane rinjin jungde ane tebi chigwa rinjin jungde ane kondo sarbo kor rinjin de kor deba wata te anso jiye yungade teni te toka ne ta wajar sarbo ya tari nanjin ki tamdam ji tenang ki teni ji ya oji soso yang so teni ti nyamda tele shep se na ta anso ji mil jewa ki lam 네 오픈 모양 시와 들이 진양 시업 되는 거를 저는 뒷갑라 다양 먼저 집때 라나님 봐 라나 덴버 마더 봐 이거 시바 다네 따다 이해당 하고라 아니 산지 좀 되데 리진요는 나는 솔직히 상황을 수만했다 네 들이 퍼서 삼아 된것이 되는 때는 대바도 무서워 왔다네 근데 옷을 점당된 데바 뒤주네 남시대 산지 네 대진 중에 그 토가가 송아이 뭐이나 하나도 되게 생각 따따다 버가와 네 따따는데 로소 빠딘 다 대진 중에 그 생각 로소 그 생각은 나서네 산제 넘버 남 대진 중에 당 아니 따따는데 인형밖에 딱 먼저 상제 토요래 근데 오픈보 뒤에도 송아이 봐야나 나서 맞아 제와는 도래. 다 맞아 제와라는 야 코로바는 참 말하고.
So now then on the third day out of the five Buddha families, Buddha Ratnasambhava will appear. The Tathagata Ratnasambhava, yellow in color, surrounded by the deities of the Ratna family. And so we will behold Buddha Ratnasambhava. And then the very sharp, brilliant rays of light, yellow in color, will shine forth from the heart of Buddha Ratnasambhava. And at the same time, together with this brilliant, vivid, sharp, intense yellow light, a pathway to liberation in the southern direction, Pure Land, glorious Pure Land of Ratnasambhava. At the same time, together with this will be a gentler, softer blue light, which is the pathway to rebirth in the human realm. At this time, recognize the appearances that are arising in this state are all your own self-appearance. They're not inherently real or existing. And have devotion and faith for the Yidam deity, Buddha Ratnasambhava. And if you can see, oh, Buddha Ratnasambhava has come to invite me, to bring me to his Pure Land, and you see this as, oh, he's come to kind of take me to the Buddha field, to the Pure Land. Then you go down the brighter light path, the sharper, brighter, more intense light, the yellow light from Buddha Ratnasambhava's heart. And then your mind dissolves into the heart mind of Buddha Ratnasambhava, and you will become a Buddha in the Pure Land of the southern direction. Ratnasambhava Pure Land. But if you instead are drawn to the softer blue light leading to rebirth in the human realm, then you will be reborn as a human being. The human realm is still within samsara, so it means you'll be reborn back in samsara. Bardo was simply the you talk and not there, but the soul of Samba and Ninja gum. Then, old drop me, but they and it Tada also on te Shivate and Yada Chiva in Matilana Mando was saying, then Tada old down the Deba, what a teacher, then Sanjit about me the Toga port
tobai mai na na so dewa jin na mamba zo sambya wata tele jewa de ma tinji ma de.
And on the fourth day, Buddha Amitabha will appear surrounded by a retinue of deities of the lotus family. And so recognize that Buddha Amitabha is coming to invite you and bring you to the Pure Land of Dewachen. And so then again from Buddha Amitabha's heart, a brilliant, bright, vivid, intense red light will emanate out. And at the same time as this, together with the brilliant shining red light from the heart of Buddha Amitabha, there will be the soft yellow light of which is the path to rebirth in the hungry ghost realm, the Preta realm. And so both of these paths, these light paths, will shine simultaneously. And at this time, you recognize Buddha Amitabha has come to escort you to the Pure Land of Dewachen. Then give rise to faith and supplicate, pray to Buddha Amitabha and to be reborn in the Dewachen Pure Land. And cultivate love and compassion for all of the sentient beings in the Bardo state who do not know and who are therefore experiencing fear and terror and suffering. Cultivate love and compassion for them. And then follow the bright, intense, overpowering, bright red light. Do not follow the yellow light, the soft yellow light. The soft yellow light is the light leading to rebirth in the hungry ghost realm. So you go down this brilliant, bright, vivid red light, and you will be born in you will develop into the heart, mind of Buddha Amitabha, and you will attain Buddhahood in Pure Land of Dewachen.
Then that's 나바텔라와 뭔데 산소 레랍 조버기 아니 생각다고 아니 대비시바를 나가는 산지 돈육 줘봐 건도장거 아니 걸 아니 따따다데 레저를 거대버데 아니 너희들 나가서 샤르모리 페미모리 뒤토가니야 어저 장거 트람단 지기다 데마지 소소가 전도에서 대다 인연들아 되네 아니 따따던 데만 좀데 라마니는 제와기 오 말고 람마보지 야 대한 그 샤완 잠보지 들리비 람이 들리비 셰르 소문이 샤윈이서 되네 뒤값을 다리 시관이 말이 공대 시반한지 아니 산제 전용 주바도 소다 다나 한소지 바도도 수만을 아니지 다 예단하고 앞에서 배경마이마 뭐다 진지 시나 때려지 대화다 뭐가 쏘았다네 오 짱당당 데마 디제네 되네 아니 산지 도육 들어가 토가야 포토 뭐다 때는 포토 많이 많이나 만족인데 레랍 조바게 현 넘버 조바 상자와리 바도 상자와 하세는 바도 농교 조바고 상자와 하세 된지 송도 되는 상자들이 되네 가데네 제다 다다고 인장부 아니 다다 마고 샤와테 견지 송송마이 마이나 라마이나 제로 그래 라마이나 제 송마이 마이나 다나 나는 소지 코로가 나는데 코로가 어떻게 이 말이지.
And then on the fifth day, the Tathagata out of the five Buddha families, the Tathagata Amoga Siddhi, Buddha Amoga Siddhi will appear from the northern direction, Pure Land of Lirapopa. His body green in color, surrounded by the deities of the Karma family. And from his heart center, just the same way as before, now here at Buddha Amoga Siddhi, from his heart center, a brilliant, vivid, shining green light will emanate out to you. And at the same time as this, there will be a soft, gentle, red light that's the pathway to rebirth in the jealous gods or Asura realm. And so both of these paths will shine, and at this time, it's the same process as before. So pray to Buddha Amoga Siddhi. Know that these deities are coming to you now to lead you out of the Bardo into the Pure Land and give rise to faith and go down the brilliant, intense light. And then if you do this, then you will be liberated in the heart center of Buddha Amoghasiddhi in the Pure Land of Nirakloka. This is known as becoming Buddha in the Bardo, awakening, attaining Buddhahood in the Bardo state. Attaining Buddhahood or being liberated in the Sambhogakaya Buddha form in the Bardo. Because if you don't follow the brilliant, intense green light leading to liberation in Amoghasiddhi's Pure Land, and instead you follow the soft, gentle, comfortable red light, and that's pathway to rebirth in the jealous God realm, and you will be reborn as a jealous God. If you are reborn in the jealous God realm, again you will have to wander in samsara.
Tene tinyam ta jawarama thugane ta utangam de ba kasen marjam ta ram ta tene ji nyam de yang ang zu jin ro de ro de wa se ba ku de xiao de ba de ne bi xia ge ri tene yang ti kap so ta wu xiao dan jiang bu zu de kro wa de wa ke lam yin ba xi ba se ti lam no man ro wa se tene ne ta wu tang dang de ba ti ju ne tene ne ji ta de Jawaran market Togalaya, Portobay Mayana, the young Shabo Dimbuck Governance, which young Toga Coca Chick
Right. So now on the 6th day, after each of the previous 5 days, you had the arising of the Buddhas of the 5 Buddha families on each day. If you're at this time in the past 5 days, if you are not able to be liberated, Nima Dumba.
Nima Dumba. Tuba.
On the 6th day, then all of the 5 Buddha families will appear together simultaneously in the sky in front. And from their heart centers, brilliant, intense rays of light of the 5 colors, white, yellow, red, green, blue, these intense light rays will emanate out from the heart center of the 5 Buddha families. And at the same time, as you have the brilliant, sharp, intense, pulsating, bright lights from the 5 Buddha family deities, you will also have the light rays corresponding to rebirth in the 6 realms, which will be much softer, soft, dull, gentle light. And so know that the soft, gentle lights are the pathway to rebirth in samsara, so do not follow them. If instead you go into the bright lights, the bright, sharp, intense, radiant, brilliant lights of the 5 Buddha families, then you won't have to be reborn in samsara, and you can be liberated in one of these realms.
What did you share? Then it's Shama Debatella. That Tawa and Zenga Tazo in that Shama tropic la. What a day share you? And it did them, yeah. And the Bardo Ranayima, Ranam Denver Mado Shiva. And it Tawa and Zenga Tazo to Zona Ranso, and it Tawa Karduka Shanghai, Suma, having my China. Then he or Lamki Togago or just take a good name, and Tata than the Zengazo, Tower and Zengazo, the Togala, and so now she the port of Mayena, then Tawa Karduka and also Java Henry.
Because Shima Togi has the same.
The condo, the Charlotte, so Kozo Tanaka, Sibo, and some water to some Mongota and the Nejuma Kozola. They bought the little two Lapchana Yasati. They get that Shama Tona, which is Lapchana Yamundo. Jean the Yachan.
So, and then after this, so you have the arising of the peaceful deities of the 5 Dhyana of the family. And then following this, This will be a phase of the arising of the semi-wrathful, not totally peaceful, not totally wrathful, but semi-wrathful deities of the Buddha nature. And so then at this time, recognize that the Bardo appearances are your own self-nature appearing, your own self-appearance. And recognize the self-projection or self-appearance are not real, not inherently existing. And when you see all the arising, know it is the expression of the innate purity. And if you recognize this, you can be liberated in the pure land of Kachit, or the celestial deity pure land. And so, at this time when these different deities are appearing, in the future I can explain to you exactly what they appear and the phases and what they look like. It's in the teachings. But in any case, there are these semi-wrathful deity appearances, and when they arise and the light rays shine from their hearts, these Vidyadhara deities, then if we go down, our consciousness goes to these bright lights, these vivid, bright lights, and we can be liberated in the pure land of Katya, or the celestial pure land.
아니 치료가 같아서 뭐마시 아니 되는 제제자 아니 되네 왜다 말도 요마이마이나 아니 샤와 제바 되네다 아니 초 가서 샤르요데 아니 되는 샤고 제바 되나 아니 부다 해라다 아니 신나다 넘버 남제 다다 주바기 아니 다다는데 부다 해라가 되는 샤보 안에 고발라 안에 도지를 지초 되는 다다는데 지나 해라가 빼마 해라가 아시나다 지 여버르마 초르마 되다 만에 샤보 제바 고바 조바 주지 주니네 다되네 그 녀마르레 샤보르레 라네 지 초가 나서 되네 마샤요리스 대 초가 지 코단 제바 되네 아니 지 초가 거다 아주 지 남제 상가나는 지대와나 진지 되지 그 르마트서 샤마르 마샤요리 근데 지 아주 내가 돼서 들은 제 하고야 뒤에 침몰이 샤 되네 라기 지 샤사당 아니 지갑선 코르당 진차로당 그래서 나는 뭐보시에 되나 지금 두수도야리 이네 내다 뭐는 진지대 하고나 시라 도도 되니 최소 내가 하고 또 바이마이나 다 뭔가 달로나 달거나 베시보 지시여 바이마리 다 등산 탕가가 나나 지요리 빠르가 나나 지요리 등산 유럽 등진이나 뭔가도 나발 따다 리세다네 니 추니 바도가 나와 샤용바기 따다데 세더지 주노와 시디지 주시노 데나나 벨메시 세보송 아니 바도가 모두 배야 본도 데네 따가나 이기 따다데 알라젠다르 모체탄데 제주요리 따서 하장 세본도 아다데 인지 데네 깨도 요노미나 하모 보게 그때는 베시 본도 찬도들이 콜로도서 다탄상 레sla오는도 다자티 칼리요리 어디다 되네 아니 제들이 되는 분이 녀마레 샤데레라 지 플라카레 샤 데가 토가니 제다 자당 무다 드라우 세선다 되네 아니 제다 로그 제와가 랑다시 항 제와가 랑고 체바다 띵모도 담마나서 하제 시본도 했더니 나때나 아니 데 베시본도
The Sunkendi Alan Sengar was
네, 콘도 바도데 되게 라트서 그 콘도 차로당 아니 바도기 다 샤당데서 아니 세더가나나 야고베 주샤 데네티 투돌기 아니 망어도다 제바 야세다니 제주요레 라로가니 제주요레 그래서 뱀메시세 본도 나서 정상배 소전의 답대로 차차그래 다자서 나서 저 때잖아 나도 이제 로니데바나 이제 그 베시보 네 저런 것이에도 잡고 데레차 내다 마오냐 이제 하고네야 싫어야 나서 이제 팀도 같은 차고도 되는 내가 된도 되지 쉬요 근데 다 제가 공도 차로 당 자마데리 그 샤소도서 나서 이제 저런 또 달로 달고 남으시고 요래 Tada Sada City, Tinikana, Pesibondo, Tinikana, Ma Jamaki, Tanatoba, and the Tinia by Mother. That's all.
So, lesson.
Mama,
oh, see, I go.
Oh, yeah.
Chennai, the Tsulnam next.
Yeah.
So if you are not able to be liberated here, if when the arising of the peaceful and semi-wrathful deities occur, you do not recognize, but instead become afraid or frightened, then these will pass, and on the 8th day, then there will begin the uprising of the wrathful Heruka Buddha. So first will be on the 8th day Buddha Heruka, the wrathful form of Buddha Vairochana. Buddha Vairochana in the wrathful form as Buddha Heruka. And on the 9th day, followed by the Doji Heruka, right?
Beza Heruka, Pema Heruka, Ordina Heruka, Pema Heruka Sita, Jordan Nata, Tubaka, Jordan Maro.
So in each So each of these days from the 8th day to the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 days will arise one of the 5 Herukas or wrathful deities of the 5 Dhyana Buddha families, surrounded by the retinue of the wrathful deities of that family. And here what's most important is that you understand the overall kind of format of how this happens, how you will have then the arising of these wrathful Buddhas, wrathful deities, because as far as the detailed description of how they look and what their accoutrements are and the way that they arise and all of that, if we get caught up in the details today, on one hand, there's not enough time, and on the other hand, also, if you don't understand the essential point, then it's of no benefit to just describe the deity descriptions. But if you want to know more details, of course, nowadays we have so many resources at our disposal to learn about what they look like, the wrathful deities, and how they arise. And there's, of course, many Tonga paintings. You can see how they look. And also nowadays you have it also made available in digital form, also like on CD. There's some really good like CDs like of the different like arisings of the deities in the Bardo of Dharmata. Like Alaksingar Rinpoche made one. I don't know if the English, how the English is, or if it's in English, but in Tibetan at least it's really clear. You have, of course, the images arising, and then you have the descriptions. And the descriptions on each day, how will this deity arise? And then from his heart, this deity's heart, and the rainbow lights, and what are the sounds and the rays of light and all of this. And at the same time, how these different gentle light paths to the 6 realms will arise. And at the same time, the vivid, crisp lights that go to the Pure Lands or the Buddha fields. And when you recognize how to recognize and distinguish and so forth. There's also one that was made in Serta as well. So these are really, really clear. These days, really, if you think about it, everything's made so easy. It's almost like, like watching a movie. It's just right there in front of you. But what's more important than going into the detailed descriptions is if you understand the point, the essence. So that's more important. And as far as the colors and the descriptions and how each arises, then you can read it in different texts or books, or you can see like in the CDs, it's very clear. So there's many different resources for learning and training in this.
nima bolan delo karcha se mongbo yabare ta delo se ta nupso taso ka kuzo yo na me na ha ko yo na me ha mo je se na ha ko yo je namba taso ki ta mi kashi te ni xie na ta ane bardo na do yang chor su na tene je bardo ke singi ta ti lo ju taso chor xie ya ye ba mo da ko na te mo yo ne dang le yo de ba tene mongbo de tene na so no kashi te bardo che taso nima 보고라 안에 라조제 요리스 마산데 그 초와다 라조데스 아쿠드는 라조 데데데 니마치 셔로가 나 진노 셔로가 나 진데 근데 그 지면제 그때는 니마치 야 칼라 지는데 근데 내 초가 진는다다 아 왕소 년제의 저대 그리스 내 왕소 년제의 망치 등록은 거 니로 나 뒤지면제 롤을 빼시 해요 저거 근데 다 라지는 아니 조금 뭐 진리도 아마다 카레리나서 저때 라 전들이 라마드 근데 조르지 그 라제 가와요나서 근데 우티데다 좋아진 데서 되어있어 말에다스다 때 아니 등록은 거 니리데 얘는 시초가 라리스 나서 마음과 시도에서 샤리용을 근데 샤리용도 트라니가 말이데 아니 자와 시초가 나서리 나서 대바세 네 텔소라다 아니 텐디서 조르트부리 시티리 좋아들이 얘기했어 그 지면들 때에 얘기하다 여서로 되는 얘기하다 다 유마시 되는데 안에 다 시로 되는데 샤는데 다 내가서 뭐 봐도 뭐 많고 고마 주동만 같이 탐을 되는 거 있지 완전히 이제 담아 되지 대도 고마 주동인지 탐 내가 뭐는 게 좋아가 납시하고 대인을 해서 어떻게 딱 내가 지 시로 있을 때 다때 짜니 해미 다때 문에 라래 나 방도도 수만 배우는데 대바선 대 진지세데 네지 야 조선서 그때네 내로 가잖아 봐도 체트선은 수고도 그치 진리는 나도 지 두드럽게 그래서 공리에 오세요 도량도 뭐문녀야 대집티 당간제야 세드도 끝나면 뭐문지 되다나 아니 별로에 보여서 됐어
맞아. And also, especially like if we can gain a lot of familiarity and experience with the Bardo teachings, the liberation upon hearing Bardo teachings, like if we really have an understanding of these, then this will really benefit us when our time comes, because like there are many stories of those who like didn't study any other practice or teaching, but they just learned the Bardo liberation upon hearing teachings on the Bardo, and they were able to be liberated because of their familiarization, their ability to recognize what was going on. And in Tibet, we have a phenomena called Delo. I don't know if you've heard of this. Maybe some of you have because you're Buddhist, but it means somebody who dies and then goes into the Bardo and everything, and they come back to life. And then they can recount, like they meet and they talk to like the other Bardo sentient beings, and they come back and they talk about what's going on or what's happening. So they're called Delo. It means that they died and then they came back to life, and they can report the afterlife and what they saw and so forth. So we have a lot of these real people in Tibet called Delo who go and they die, they go to the Bardo, they come back. And then they talk about too in the Bardo and what happens there. So actually, the point of how important it is to have familiarization with what we will see when we go into Bardo state is illustrated by one story from Tibet, true story. There was a Tibetan like statue maker, and so a Tibetan Khenpo painter, deity artist, and he had a wife, and he was always painting the deities, but one time his wife, she was like afraid of snakes, and one time she saw him painting the snake-headed Dakini, the snake-headed female deity, Zudongma, and she had the body of the female deity, the head of a snake, and And he said, what are you, a snake-headed, being? And then her husband explained to her, oh, no. These are not animals. They are deities. They are the peaceful, wrathful deities. They're Buddhas. And they're taking the form of the animal head. But they're actually none other than the deities of the 100 peaceful, wrathful, pure Buddhas. So you shouldn't misunderstand. You shouldn't be afraid, because when you die and you go through the Bardo, then 100 peaceful, wrathful deities will arise to you, and at that time you will see many like this, these animal-headed deities. So don't be afraid. These are none other than the Buddhas, and so have faith and pray to them, and then you'll be able to be free, liberated. And so he explained this to his wife, and she kind of stored it in her mind after that. Like it never left her mind. And then later on, when she died, she had all the peaceful, wrathful deities appearing to her, and she didn't recognize any of them. And so she wasn't liberated then. But then she saw Rudongma, the snake-headed female deity. And then all of a sudden it triggered her memory of that day when her husband was painting and explained to her, oh, and then she remembered what her husband said, and she said, oh, wait, no, now I remember, these are the wrathful deities, these are the Buddhas. Oh no, I can't be afraid, I shouldn't be afraid. No, these are the enlightened ones. And so she gave rise to faith, and then she was great. And one of the Delokarcha reading. The Delokarcha, and many Bardo teachings as well, and also in the instructions written by the Delok, or those who have gone beyond and come back, then this story is illustrated. So that's why if now we can familiarize ourselves with the Bardo teachings, really study them, and look at the tankas and many of these images and descriptions now, then this is of great benefit.
Kare shawa imba ina ya kono ngada jingnam panze ne sama de ngada tan jingnam pang ne ni ji sheto dan ni ji tinje ko ta pa do chuni pa do na wa kare ti shawa imba ina ya rana imba mo shi ba rana de so yi shi imba mo shi ba yi shi de so ni ji ramo choba dan ane de sama ni ji pa du na so zam ma do dong ne ni ji den ba ma do ba imba ko tinje go wes Bardo Hansori in Bashivas at Donchin Gala, but Dujagong, Sidatica, and Donchin that did in the Tornia and his Sangia to the Yuri. That other JJ Dama and a young Mandor, Douglas of Valentine, and the Bardo in the club in New York, the young, for Yando Mando, Sandra Jigan, Kia Yuri. The name Dana, she took all the magic, so that it is on now in Bade.
And so that's why. So that's why in the root text it reads, when the particle of Dhammata dawns upon me, I will abandon all fear, panic, and terror. I will recognize whatever appears as my own self-appearance, my own projection, and know it to be a vision of the Bardo. Now that so up until here, basically when we are in this state, then whatever sounds, lights, and light rays appear, whatever appearances of the 100 peaceful, wrathful deities arise, we should abandon all fear and panic and terror, and not feel threatened by these, but see the peaceful, wrathful deities, recognize them in the arising of the appearances, whatever they are, whatever appearances arise in this Bardo Dhammata, know it to be the appearance, no self-appearance to be wisdom, and recognize wisdom to be your own nature. And so when all of these appearances of the Bardo arise, know that they're just simply the appearance, but in the true nature, they're not inherently existing. And so that's why the last two lines of the text read, now that I have reached this crucial point, I will not fear the peaceful and wrathful deity, my own self-appearance. So this is a great importance, not to be afraid. not to go into a state of fear or terror, because right here at this point is the border between whether we go up or whether we go down. So it's important not to be afraid, not to feel threatened and be afraid of these appearances.
Then that more Shiva in Bayana, Chuni pardon the tour, and pardon you do call Sanjava in Mother. Then the tour Matapa in Bayana, that Dao says on the down, only the Shiroko, Sharon do, telling Jake Jana, then any Jitin Jata, and Mandala Sobaki, Maya, Temi the general, the Temi the Jaraya soon, and the Siva Pardo and Rocky. Then the Tatari in the Teja, then also Suru, Siva Pardo de Ship, to Suji done not the Tudor the Major Long Loom. It is not that to so Madame May not to Siva Pardo to Mando, they can't tell you.
So we can recognize it, this Bardo Dharmanta. And if we recognize it, then we can become a Buddha, become liberated in some Bodhikaya form in this period, right? Here, we liberated here, and when the arising of the sounds and light rays occur, when the appearance of the peaceful, wrathful deities arrive, if instead of recognizing it, we become afraid, then we will, again, faint unconscious from the fear and terror. And then when we come to again, when we kind of wake up from the unconsciousness, then we will be entering the phase of the Bardo of rebirth, Bardo of becoming. So for today's session, we'll end here and then continue after the break on the Bardo of becoming, the Bardo of rebirth. And then if there's time today, I will offer you the loom, the oral transmission for the liberation upon hearing Bardo practice. If there's not time, then we'll just finish the
Hare
Chuni Bardo te maso share te bare. Tene Chuni Bardo te ta chadang jiyong ne she yende ta shabu shabu juni chusong na ta ti ne Chuni Bardo te shage yori song tene song yori. Ta yene yang te ka tusu te tenje je nipa yo ma re. So je ne kare re so je ne ta te shabu je ni se ya te ngang zo ta te ta ta ni ya ke shabu je yi bang ka nipa yo ma re. Ne je gong ki ne tengen je ne sha te ni tsu ni ane tene je yinba yinde tada tsenda la na so gong jia yu ki de so la ane Chuni Bardo de yuan ren si sha ya. Tene yang tsendi la ane je tene gong jia ma nyong ki tene dang Bardo go kor la ane je tene pa cha me pa ki tene de re la ane tene tu su tong sa dang ane xian na yang nang zinde tudur ga nang ma son sha pa ki ane ta pa ta so si po sha wa ki ane
So we have already completed the discussion of the Bardo of Dhamma, or the Bardo of the nature. And so generally speaking, as far as like the period of time that one would experience this Bardo of Dharmata, the general number is 12, 13 days. That's what it says, that the Bardo of Dharmata will 12 or 13 days. However, the time is not like a definitive certain number, because, for example, even the word day, like when we say 12 or 13 days, it's not necessarily that it means a day as in a 24-hour period of day and night. It's also possible that it refers to what we call a day of meditation day, or like how we quantify a period that we call a day by the standards of samadhi or meditation. In other words, like a person who has experience of meditating and practicing in their lifetime, then the Bardo of Dharmata might last a longer time for that person. But a person who has no prior exposure to these teachings or to practices of the Bardo teachings, and they don't have any habitual during their life. When they go into the Bardo, it might be a much shorter time that this lasts. And even the way that it arises, even though it arises, it may not arise exactly in the way that it is described in the order of the Bardo Tudro, the liberation upon hearing Bardo teachings.
Da kanda nga lo te Bardo rinpa sum te ta lo le ya hu te ngi ko wa le te ndu tambo cheka Bardo sin te lo ta ti kap su na do ti thumen de zo le ya ko mo shi ya ta ane po wa ki mi yang li de so ta ke chi ji te yin ba le ane ti kap su ane ta shi gom ra wo dang ji 이제 거기서 사람들 대 모시 더 많이 많이나 네 쳐왔던 뭐 추가로 상자와 하시다 그래서 개치슈 안에 두툼슈 안에 고갑이야슈 됐다 안에 또 담목 값 되는 말에
So in any case, it's important that we have a very clear and definitive understanding of what are the three stages of the Bardo. From the first Bardo of dying, or the Bardo on the verge of death, then we want to make sure at this time that we have recognition of all the stages of dissolution, that we have a good recognition and familiarity with the dissolution stage. And then at this time, then the most important practice is poa, the transference. And so, like when the basic luminosity arises, then if we recognize this, then this is called becoming a Buddha, the Dharmakaya during the first phase of death. And this is the becoming liberated in the shortest time and also the best opportunity right there is in that first phase of the dying process.
다 추구시도 가르치시냐? 아니 먼저 산재기 세브라그나 신직이 말해. 산재 시대당 산재예요. 뒤는 산재그는 대신지 세브라지 산재그 조지 다 되는 차도요래. 이제 말에 딱 봐도 담보대 나한테 추고 걸라. 추고가 잠깐 추고가 뭐라. 아니 저토바당 산재 토바 what dinji ane kokaptang dinji nyamninde ane chega pardo kakabe bani mare.
No, sir. So when we say Dharmakaya, what we are really saying is like Buddha. It's an aspect of Buddha state. We talk about like Buddhahood in general. So this is one aspect of Buddhahood. And the principle, like state of awakening, Buddhahood, and the Dharmakaya, the truth body form of the Buddha. And so here, in this stage of the Bardo, of the dying process, that's where we have the chance to be awakened in the Buddha field of the Dharmakaya, or that is liberated in the essence of Dharmakaya. We are able to become Buddha as Dharmakaya. And so that's why the first opportunity for this here and where we need to implement our practice would be in this phase that we mentioned during the Bardo of the dying process to awaken into the Dharmakaya nature.
Then the Bardo nivate and chuni Bardo sumari. The chuni Bardo gala, the chuni shiro, Goda, Shankana Soba, Shari Migare, and it took up la Nanzo Chipte, Moshiba Tang, and it took up and it is Shiro go. Shankam take it and Nanzo, the number Shiba, the port by Imbayina. Then it Sanjay Longju Zogo Shankana Jet about Longju Zogo. Mola and Nanzo Sanjay to Imare. The longest in the young Nanzo Sanjay the Sebraji, Shankamji Sanjay, the tennis Nanzo called you.
And so then in the second Bardo, following the Bardo of the dying process is the Bardo of Dharmata, the Bardo of the nature. And at this phase, then we can become liberated in the during the arising of the natural expression of the peaceful and wrathful deity form out of the Dharmata. Then we can become liberated in the during this time, the peaceful and wrathful deity forms and the Buddha fields and so forth of the peaceful and wrathful deities arise from Dharmata. And at this phase, if we recognize this, then we will be able to become liberated in the, if we recognize this, and we are able to transfer our consciousness then into the peaceful or wrathful deity, and then we will be able to be reborn in the Sambhogakaya, to become Buddhas as the essence of Sambhogakaya. And again, Sambhogakaya, or great enjoyment body, is a form of Buddha state. So it's like one aspect of the Buddha field, Sambhogakaya Buddha field. That's an easy way to explain it.
Then, the Nibola, Torma Taba Yina, Talanga, Tati Langa, and Suba Leje Pardo, sit in the Sumi. Tajawa coming on the land of Tajawa into the Pardo Degma. Siba Les, the Siba said the Jawa, Siba Kanyan on the Shenda, near Kanyan on the Jawa in the Jawa Ledge Pardo sitting in some year. That thick cabinet, 나도 그냥 Bardo 그냥 내서 야고에 봐 이마에나 되네 그거 생각 다다 대화진다 산도 빠르게 되네 안에 따따단데 조보다라다 소바니 그거 생각은 야 깨와는 토요래 그래서 랍세 근데 대 마토베 이마에 가시 마토베 이마에나 근데 좀 마음바 제와 저기 제와 정부 이제 담을 취해봐 아니 담을 취는 제가 아니 제가 조랑소라 소바 그 제와 분좀 소바기 근데 제와 당연히 봐 그거가 되게 봐 때문에 그거가 무슨 매바이 말에 다비는 생각하는 제가 대말에나 다치는 손은 만들어서는 제와 두고 그 람도서 막가는 제와 정부지 야는 토바기 탑시 아니 람가 그거가 되게 봐 말에
And so, if the states we were unable to liberate it or be free, then there's another chance, and that is in the next Bardo called the Bardo of Becoming, also known as the Bardo of Karma or Rebirth. So the reason it is called the Bardo of Possibility or the Bardo of Becoming, Sika means possibility or becoming, it's because it's sort of like anything and anything you can become based on the karma. So therefore, in this Bardo phase, it's the phase of becoming or going by karma into the next rebirth. So at this time, if you have a good Bardo practice, then you can become liberated in a Buddha field of Nirmanakaya, an emanation form Buddha field, like Dewasen, or Sangopari, and so forth, or Potala, and so forth, the Teresi Pure Land. But if you are unable to attain rebirth in a Pure Land of the Nirmanakaya Buddha, then at least you can try to direct your next rebirth, your future rebirth, to a very good, auspicious rebirth with, an excellent opportunities and with a connection to the sublime Buddha Dharma, so that you will meet with the Dharma and that you will be born into an excellent family line and so forth. So you can choose, try to choose your positive rebirth, and at least to avoid having to go down into the lower realms or an unfavorable rebirth. Try to obtain the good rebirth, the positive rebirth.
된대임인데 단가 저 휴바 라버드네 다데 바도기 취 냐네야고 연킨 된지제 임바이나 다 채웠어야 돼. 뻔머시바가 나는 저 고가비는 거지. 이 말에 세상 동는 거 고가야 거지. 된지제 임바이데 된 채웠어야 돼. 짜고야 나오다. 그래서 때 동한거라니 어떻게 된지 많이 봐. 되는 채워야 되나 안 좋지. 상제와 고가. 아니 대화지는 저기 고가. 네, 되는 고가. 뻔머시바가 고가 이하고 이 말에.
탄다디 대화chen 기신하나 기기 고가.
네.
이거를 고맙다. 기디 매버사.
네. 저 주바 당 라버 바도기 근데去年的 연kin제 임바이나去年的 야고 여바당 전에 라버 바도기去的 년에 야고게 요나 채와 세야 되나 도지 이제 잡고야 당 동할거란지 되는 많이 봐 채와서야 돼 뻔마시바가 나한테 고가 정보들이 근데 채와기 아니 뒤때는 나한테 상지압도 고가 당 근데 가르스에는 되게 추고던 롱고고 뭐 상지에 말았나요 대화진나서 봐 주고 생각하는 게더바기 다 되는 고갑지 이마인데 나한테 주가 지금 이제 봐 이마이나 세상 동네장 아니 가와게 고갑 이야기들이
하래 동네장
세상 자마 동타래 야마 자카 동타래 가와게 고갑이
that being the case, if we are good practitioners of Dharma, and especially if we have a good foundation of Bardo familiarity, of the Bardo practices, and we've been practicing well, especially if we have Bardo practice, Bardo teaching, then death doesn't have to be this terrifying ordeal. It doesn't have to be fraught with suffering and fear and panic. Instead, if we are good practitioners of Dharma, and we have the Bardo, death becomes an incredible opportunity for us to become liberated. And so actually, like, even if in the death we are not able to attain Buddhahood in the Dharmakaya form or as a Sambhogakaya, but we could achieve rebirth in the Pure Land, the Buddha fields of the Nirmanakaya, like Dewachen, the Great Bliss Pure Land, and so forth. So that's why actually death becomes actually a wonderful, incredibly positive opportunity for us that we can look forward to with great joy, almost like more precious than like 1,000, I'm not sure the unit of measurement, maybe tons or pounds, anyway, it's a 1,000 like collections of gold, like pure gold. That's more precious than that is the opportunity we have in the death, studying death.
Then the marble of the song is Jim Marble. And Chewa mind the number Sanjong Joy something if some. And so Chewa said the Chuba Jiki Munishevayana, but it chess in the Tohan in the Jigati Denimaris. And then Chewa the Sangya of the Coca is. What are the niches on you? Then you dog chew the water, sent up the Sangya of the chew. To be Drawazanji, and it's Sangya of the chew. Then it get jiggle and it's Sadrasi, get jiggle and Sangya Tawaki, and it's Sachu. What are the name of it? You made the answer to Chawase at the Chubato. And it Tamala, and it is also the legendary of song, Chawa Captain Jobam. Then Raviana, Chawa Kapla, and it's also Gaji, Georgie. And it is also the Chita, Chawa got the sort of Chawa Tablet, so Yahoo, and it then down over the draw the Java going Chatology. What did it chap? Boy, now so Chuba Michel. And that's in the you may the so it net is only to my Bardo Banana, then we left the then Bardo number song Kinan, and the good song is Shakana, and then brought over the Sandy or Key, shoot us on my song. Namjur Sanchong Javais, Namjoba San Javais, San Java the Coca.
Samchong
Sang Javais, that's Sanchong in Gorka, Sang Javais in a Yamundo.
As the great master Marco Lozawa said, death is not death. It is Buddhahood for the yogin. So what we call death for our yogi, for our Dharma practitioner, it doesn't have to be this terrifying, suffering-filled experience. It's actually, for a practitioner, it is the opportunity to awaken to Buddhahood. And so that's why the Bardo teachings are so incredible, because it is like the means for great sinners to instantly become Buddhas, just merely by hearing to be liberated. From in a matter of one moment of sentient being, the next moment of Buddha. These are the qualities of these Bardo teachings, that if we are Dharma practitioners, at the very least, when we die, we can hope to die having maintained a respect to the law of karma, cause and effect, so that we die without regret. And if it is the best case scenario, ideally, that when death comes, we can die with joy and excitement and enthusiasm, because if we did a good preparation and we really prepared and practiced during our lives, so that when death comes, we are filled with confidence and fearlessness and joy. This is what we need as Dharma practitioners. This is how a Dharma practitioner relates to death. So this is how it is taught in the Bardo teachings. And so you see that in the three stages of the Bardos, you actually have three opportunities to become Buddha, to become liberated in the three Kaya Buddha Pure Lands.
Then Kong Tower Bardo the Bay Mamu song with it. And the Jay the Kong is a truth then Gilbo done, Gagan Row done, Jong Yumba, Sama the Tudam about Patty Yoma is a young run of Chagre. Then the Bardo which you said, and the Hajar Lobian Chimbo Mebatan, Yang Tsulnam said, Galeta the Jama, Toba Yamayan. The two Tudor said the two tuba paying there down. Then the Bardo can net, so that's a neat away in Bayna. Then the Menga said the Carrier love you, Dama, Mengas did Lando answer. Then no key, choose Sabo, Hakona, Pento Timo, you mean on the Dama Lavi. Mengas in the Demi. Then the Bardo to the Nando, for you, Nandi, Chichu to Moma, but that's all. The two non-Jin, Dom Jaya, Yorin, Nabanda, Yori, Temeke, Chutama, Diana, and now the Bardo, Tang, Dindicorte, Major for you, Nadina, Yovanani, and she does support a Jachamota, never invited.
In the past, in Tibet, the Lama who was Vajradhara in person, Garma Teten, I had the opportunity to be in his presence at some points. And one thing that this master would always do is he would always talk about the Bardo. He was always teaching the Bardo teaching. And in his mountain hermitage area, like pretty much everyone in that area, even the regular lay, old people and just like, the regular people in the marketplace in the town, that area, there's nobody who died without staying in meditation, like where they just remained absorbed in meditation after death. And nobody who had been exposed to him and his teachings, because what this shows is that you don't need a lot of study, and you don't need to be learned and have this tremendous diligence, even if you aren't able to work very hard and diligently study and learn a lot of teachings. If you just have these Bardo teachings, that's why they're called Bardo Tudro. Tudro means liberation upon hearing. It means that these are the instructions that just by hearing can bring about liberation. About the teachings, the essence of the Bardo explanations, these are what we call mengak. Mengak is upadesha, is heart advice, direct instruction. Heart advice and direct instruction, they are very easily and simply explained, and they convey the most profound points. And when you understand these profound points easily through the direct instructions, then there is tremendous, great benefit. And that's what these instructions that are easily understood, but convey the most profound Dharma points, and through knowledge of them bring about great benefit. That's the definition of oral instructions or direct instructions, upadesha, meha. So that's what these Bardo teachings are. And that's one quality of the Bardo instructions that make them extraordinary, make them stand apart from other teachings and instructions. Of course, there's many different there's many benefits from the many different Dharma instructions out there and other, spiritual instructions, but you don't find something that is so profound and vast and extensive, the direct points and instructions in the Bardo, in other sources. So that's why the Bardo teachings are so extraordinary.
나사 독자들 되는데 내그리스 되는데 따지마 고소 그때 투돌때서마 똥나 되는 제가 봐도 그 터는데서 딱 봐도 돼서 뭐 어째 하여튼 동 내가 저다 뭐 저런도게 다 들리래 딱 봐도 그 담마마지 라마 그 담마마지 딱 투돌때서 마 되네 왜 네 뭐 그렇게서 마시에 되지 에 중앙 카트 자리만 받쳐서 맞아 시에다 다 주고 하네 가지 내도 다 가지 때 등은로 뜻이 야마로 있어야 되나 카타는 거다 진리에 선수 콘타가 그때 보여서 저거는 다 하고 다 한다면서 다 돈도서 그래서 말이지 딱 진리에 있다 봐도 나는 진리 송요와 다 저랑 맞춰 왔어 전도에서 하고원도서 다다다 그 하고원도서 담보 카타냐 유들 다 건나다에서 말이야 선지 거서 말이지 근데만 지금 뭐 조조 투도에서 되는 동대대 정말 카타 자주면 받쳐도 근데 그래서 다 건 하고원도서 정말 지금 시라메 되게 때다 뭐그 무조자야죠 다 하고원도서 되게 돈도서 그 정말 건대에서 도당은요 donc ju tenait une réserve de sopé mon bosson tenait une tu Bardo c'est pas comme l'autre chose de descendre et ne dit pas nyame yuan rumoji sera zotoya ma tenena tu Bardo que tu que c'est là ta payon c'est de ne savait pas ça pour tenir une salle
Actually, one of my Dharma siblings, my Dharma brother, he that I knew since we were young, he actually died quite young. And we stayed together, we received the Bardo teachings together and a lot of transmissions and teachings together. But we received the Bardo instructions together, but then he died quite young. He passed away. And when he passed away, I wasn't there, he was in another place, but I heard from talk with my Dharma friends, Dharma brothers, when we heard that when he was kind of like at his last moment, he had gotten some kind of terminal illness, and his death was pretty much, just a short matter of time, it was guaranteed. And at that time, some Dharma siblings, some Dharma friends came to his bedside and read the Bardo Tudro, the instructions, the breaks upon hearing Bardo teach. And so, the way that these instructions go, so the Dharma brothers were kind of asking him, like, so you recognize this, and going through, like, the stages of the dissolution and the Bardo instructions, and reminding him, now don't forget your instructions. Now don't forget the Lama's instructions. Don't forget the Bardo instructions. So don't forget. And then they were saying, trying to go through to point out and introduce the different points. And later he couldn't speak anymore. So that was when it was like the stages of dissolution were actually about to begin, and his death was very soon coming at that time. But at first he could still talk, and when he could still talk, and the Dharma brothers, they would check with him and say, do you understand? Okay, are you recognize this? And he would say, oh yes, no problem. I think it should be okay. I'm not worried. And then when he stopped being able to talk, then they would keep going, reading the Bardo instructions and asking him, you know, okay, do you understand or you recognize? And he nodded his head and he gave the physical indication that he understood and that he wasn't worried, there was no problem. And then later on after that, he couldn't even really nod his head, but he could move his eyes. And so with his eyes moving, he could give the indication that he was following along and he was understanding and it was okay. And then later when he actually died, he stayed in Tsulnam in meditation. And then many signs after his death, such as relics and so forth, came. And this was my Dharma brother, my Dharma friend, and he died young. He didn't have a very long time where he was practicing for a long period of time. He wasn't able to in that lifetime. But just by the blessings and the power and the benefit of these Bardo teachings, so inconceivable. You know, that just by that he was able to have this kind of result.
That is it, and then Bardo Tama Siva Bardo. And it that they la Jemada, Siva Bardo, Chabin, Dumba City, San Jose, Zambo, Legend for the Nation to Marco Gana, Rock Tambasa, New Tanam, you could do Gini. Musepon and Lama Yango, Chawa, Yamle, Lorenbo, the mix and is our drugnet, Taritomos and Demontor. Gumishiva, Tamba Tachi, Tata Nita, Hachi Mazita, Tinji Lamejan, Tebeson, Lamadama, Santa Majana, Langarani, Super Majoransi. What are the names on here?
And so now coming to the last Bardo here is the Bardo of becoming, to read from the root text. Kiyama, alas, when the Bardo of becoming dawns upon me, I will focus my mind single-pointedly and strive to prolong the results of good karma, close the womb entrance, and think of resisting the lower rebirth. This is the time when perseverance and pure intention are needed. Abandon jealousy and meditate on the Guru with his consort. And then following this, it says,
Oh, yeah, there's Yash and the Oh, there's Yash, came and the there's chicken in the mass on time.
No, she said.
Yeah. There's on the Chuni Bardo, more shit, and it did them a short by Marina, and then Siva Bardo the Levy, then a young man to short child, then the Siva Bardo the Levy. That card there, and then Chuni Bardo de did them a trauma of a Mayana. That and it Chuni Bardo be Sheto go down. The Neta draw down, draw Serson Lasobaki, and it is Bardo in the Chuni Bardo key. And then now at the Sharon, and then it tell them Jason, drop. See, draw Serson to go at the net, and it didn't draw down, the little bone. That is the more machine, you didn't draw the thing. That the Bardo is sending the, and it is the Jar, don't know the child with it. Tell it, Jar one, Yase, and it the Siva Bardo don't go to here. Then the Siva Bardo de, Chuni Bardo de Ngane, then any young Yashankam, young and Roger, Gamrona, and it gave a Malanga party to tell and Siva Bardo set in the Sony.
So, if during the Bardo of the Dharma when we were able to have recognition and thus be liberated, then we wouldn't have to go through this final Bardo of becoming. because we would have already been liberated. But if in case during the Bardo of the Dharmata we were unable to be liberated because we became threatened or afraid of the display of the forms of the peaceful and wrathful deities and the sounds, lights, and light rays. And so we were unable to be liberated during the Bardo of Dharmata because of our fear and because we did not recognize. Then the Bardo beings who do not have recognition during the display of the peaceful wrathful deities and the lights and sounds and light rays, but who become afraid, they faint into an unconsciousness state. And then when they awaken from that unconsciousness, they kind of come back to consciousness. Then they're in the next phase of the Bardo, the next Bardo, which is the Bardo of becoming. So the Bardo of becoming starts when the Bardo of Dharmata has ended. And so basically, the length of time that one is in the Bardo of becoming is from the point at which one enters the Bardo of becoming until one lightened in a pure Buddha field, or until one takes rebirth in any of the 6 realms.
Chuni Bardo de Jadam and the Yuan Ren, the Shawa in Bayana, Muxare. Then Madoba gave Kanza Jumatsola, the Siva Bardos and Lans, so Shergos is here no, Shamuji Shibu, that is Siva Bardo, the Metaza here.
The Siva Bardo Koran, the Shamushi.
That the Chuni Bardo, then the Shama Juni Ravojita. Nyami yoba kanza yuna de rang chagrava ane tindi mai ba kanza chuma roji yena ta siba pardo de la chuni pardo se chokka ma do ba khar ma tindi de yima yinde ane ji shama jibri shergote ke yana nam zo ke yunga shergo se de ta manshi siba pardo la tindi tse ya ma so baba ane shergo tse de 당고 샤솜의这个 말와 샤마솜의 야요 부분이 다때 샤솜의 가르치서요 말이잖아 가장 바도는 시바는 디티가서 다 모시바트서 도담다고 용거 그래 다 바도 모때 아니 지어서때 모 마시베 이바이는 샤마솜의 재미도 잖아 디가서 아니 뱀 나시데 뱀보가나 데리베데 되네 샤마솜 세지 그때는 단 나시데 르르 서로 통나 Then Bardo could look to here, see what Bardo could look to. That the next end, Jetan Bardo Tete Tela, Koran Tete, Shama Dinrachi, Imbade. Nanso Karis and Dinrade and Dinzel songs in the door. The Karis and Shama Dinra de Tene, Tuma Reresha here, the passage. The Reresha Yoma Castle, Tachiwa Kanalana, Tikam, Yankiwa Lane, Yashan Hanson, Mam and so on. Mother Kevala, Tolo Kevala, Kanu Kevala. Then Kevala Maran, Yaja Dinra Teo. This Dinra joke and the Yaja Tamachi Shawak and Jingra, the Sochatan, Pado, the Pronam, the Solar. The name young Kewa, young court, Tinean, Kewa, the Poker Killer. The name my own that did not dent in window, young Egyptian Shago. Then this Shago, but then the Tatanza, Mang Chishi, Charmochete. Kewa in Dogre, the song, Kavajiwa Lama. The Yena young, the Kansa Kashiyan, very needed the young chip, the Pado, the Bay, Yuan Mola, the Minera, Juno, Edita, Kansa, Chetan, Shama, Gypsy Shabu, Katana, the Kewa Zang, Karalan, the Kewa Yin, and into Yoris.
So, so the Bardo of the Dharmata leads into the Bardo of becoming, and for the general people, generally speaking, we talk in Tibetan, we say there's 49 days that a person is in the Bardo state, and predominantly being in the Bardo of becoming, the Bardo of going to take your next rebirth, because for those practitioners who have some practice, then they can stay in the Bardo of Dharmata for a longer time. And those who don't have practice, then the Bardo of Dharmata, it goes by very quickly, like in a flash. And then they're already into the Bardo of becoming. And so we say, generally speaking, 49 days is the average amount of time that an ordinary person would spend in the Bardo becoming, meaning that that's the pretty much the farthest end of days that one would spend in the Bardo before taking rebirth somewhere. And it's a general number. It's not definitive, but we don't count the first 3 days after a person's death in that number, because the reason is because, like it's explained in the Bardo, when the person's gone through the stages of dissolution, if they have recognition in the arising of the luminosity, the ground, then they can abide in meditation in that phase. And if we don't recognize, then they faint into an unconscious state. So at that time, around 3 days, they may stay, kind of their consciousness is sort of in a state of unconsciousness. Your consciousness is like fainted into like a sleep-like state inside the corpse. And then after like 3 days pass, the consciousness goes outside. And that's where the Bardo appearances begin for that person. But the 49 days, actually it's understood in periods of 7 weeks, because what happens is every week there's a repeat of the whole experience of dying. The dying person relives that dying experience, the suffering of dying, the suffering and fear and terrifying experiences of the Bardo, and the openings for taking either in a higher state or in a lower state, or if they're going to be born as a human being, or if they're going to be born as an animal, or wherever they're going to take rebirth, they have another chance. So every week it's a replay of the whole process from when they died, the suffering and the fear, and then all the terrifying Bardo experiences appear. And then wherever they're going to be reborn, over those periods of weeks, then they're going to take rebirth one way or the other. And so most people, most beings, they will take rebirth. By the time you reach 49 days or 7 weeks, they will have taken rebirth. But there are a rare couple here and there, few people who would remain for a long, long time in the Bardo. But that's not the norm. The norm is like maximum 49 days, and then they would have left the Bardo state and taken a body and taken a rebirth, whether a good or positive rebirth or a negative rebirth, but they would have taken rebirth already.
Tsulnam, and it is sort down, and it didn't jerk a set along Juba. Net the Tsulnam, and it is Niba Mebata. Caressing your Lumba, then the Bardo, that need your name about Mebala Java. Troll a young, and then some of nature Bardoki, and it is Senji Mambo and brought the back, and then some of the young so kitchen Nangas over the line lawyer, then the troll and never Meba, and the Desal and never Mebata, Bardo and Nafi, Masuchi, Pardon Nafi Naji, Sinatati, name never Mebaka, or Garland Chandro, then the troll and never Meba, Chisum Sama that they even brought there. Which is then Sela and it tell us about Madova, usually Nana to Casella Soba Mideba. Then he Jinsem Chiba can wish you about. So Bardo be me get that, and so that get out of here, the yen and so forth. And so that she walked a dog down Chimant to so the Sanga Careti, Geja Caresi, the so Chasan, the Pasi there for me.
So the description or like the defining characteristics of the Bardo are described in the text. So in the Bardo being experience, there's no actual aggregate of forms. We don't have a physical body in the Bardo. We have the Bardo mental body, which is like the body of a dream in our dream. It's not substantial material, but we perceive ourselves to have a Bardo body. But it's just like a body in the dream. It's lacking in the physical form. And so over these 49-day period, we have this Bardo form, and so it's not a physical body, but it's like, it's like a dream, like a body in a dream. And in the first part of the Bardo, like the first half, then we perceive our body as like exactly the body we had before we died. So however we were in that lifetime, that's how we see ourselves in the first half of the Bardo. Our mental body, our Bardo form, is like the form that we were familiar with from ourselves in that life. But the second half of the Bardo, we take on the form of the future body that we are going to take when we take rebirth. So also a Bardo being has, when we are in the mind, when we are connected with the physical body, we are limited by the physical limitations of being embodied. But a Bardo being has more miraculous power, like magical power, and the mind is not fettered by the physical vessel. So for example, like right now, because our minds are in our bodies, just because we think about going somewhere, we think of going to India, we're not immediately transported to India. Our minds might be there, but our bodies cannot go wherever we think just in that moment. But once the body leaves, once the mind or consciousness leaves the body, and the body and the consciousness become separate, then the mind can go wherever it thinks. Like whatever comes to your mind will be right there. So you become limited with where you can manifest yourself based on where you think. And like you also are able to like walk through walls and walk through like, mountains and houses, because you're no longer constrained by the physical limitations of having a physical body. And also, a Bardo being has clairvoyance. A Bardo being can read the minds of the people who are living, of other people's minds. They can read their minds. They know what they're thinking. They know what they're thinking, what their intentions are. Also, a Bardo being can experience sustenance through smell, through the smell of like burnt offerings, like skewer offerings, and so forth. That's how a Bardo being sustained. It takes food, is through the scent, through the smell offerings, and burnt offerings. And also, a Bardo being has no guaranteed, like, definitive place, because they're just wandering kind of like at random. So there's no definitive place that the Bardo being resides, because the Bardo is like sometimes here, sometimes there, wandering in this intermediate state. And the Bardo being also doesn't have a definitive companion, because sometimes the Bardo being will interact with others, and sometimes will go back to the home of his, his predecessor, go back to his family home. And the Bardo being doesn't have any stable place and stable companions, doesn't have that. But the consciousness of the Bardo being, is just wandering wherever. And then they can't actually eat food or drink. They can only eat what is dedicated through sense, through smell, like through surah offerings. A Bardo being knows what the people are thinking. So a Bardo being can go and see what his surviving people, surviving relatives are talking about and thinking, but the Bardo being can't be heard. The living relatives are and they cannot hear the Bardo being talking. But the Bardo being can hear them and can see their mind and their thoughts. So the Bardo being knows what's being said about him or what's being thought in the minds of the remaining relatives and so forth.
Then Bardo donga sede Siva Bardo tada Shiva nai. Ta ti parsi ti ta zog kumoya mare yena chorwa yore dushin du number Shiva ye ten du deva ki ne Bardo lu je to yore. Then du ta chor nami dang ani je sozo ke ta proper tomando then the chorke je she he yote ta na su ko yo ma ka se pa ke je she ko yo ma. Then yang donga je so then sozo ke je ta 공부돼서 다 매라서 추로 거 살아진 근데 야는 제 소소가 무보다 주제는 주 얘가 뭐한테서 다 야매 봐서 마음에 봤다 된대죠 네 이제 된대 마음 되는데 다베제 봐시 바도 생기는 다 동화 친구 중요하다 근데 아니 다 바도 그 나와 되는 여달아서 봐요 말이 다 버드 나와는 진짜 문밖에 나와도 또 밖에 여다 통해요 말이 아시 근데 다 조라양 근데 라니 지보당 삼선의 지다 천대라 소바다 되는 마도 tempo요 말에 아니 지보는 바도는 단 로고요리 근데 이제 내라양 내가 매봐 아니 이제 사블롱 크로나이징스는 지다 강제는 참로와 근데 세라양 근데 이제 저자마도 봐도 교왕 매봐 근데 쳔디기 딱히 템자장 파마부지 조간자 어째 참마다 카트 참마다 시작 되는면로 근데 이제 다 어도근 직다시네 어째 레글롱마 그 잔이데 근데 진지기다 혼야도서 근더니스 근데 이제 뭐그 다지야 망이 봤다 말 아니
그렇지 이게 농말기 겹니테 근데 가래 되는 수비야
신지기 혼야 신지 랭
신지 혼야
랭크에서 근더니스 근데 따따다 신지 바도근 직다 몸보도
맞아요.
아니 이제 그 다지에서는 들려요다 종원 초군데 아니 따따단디 종원초 아니 로바다 또 되나 같이 잠도 침보는 지 초대밖에 작게 나지 근데 이제 메달은 낙차단 카바 침보 메다 저밖에 나지 그다 근데 종원초든 초밖에 자대기 말 초도 시차로 사초밖에 또기 근데 이제 레침분이 원나지 상부침분 조건나지 그 다다 근데 롱나다 이제 롱속다 롱배 롱슈침보 버원나지 기타 이제 뭐 다지스 근데 다 망이 양서 somse는 더 차다 저는 또 뭐기 딜레는 또기 근데 이제 양사 타다 자다 양 제다 나보다 멀보다 가도 되고 딘지그다 다다나 얘기지다 바도기 다 딘지그 동나다 몽부지 가자다 보여다 근데 다시 인지 보냐게 주주다 소수 같이 딘지그 인지다 그다다 이제 레는 거 바도 그다 동아 몽부 질러요지
And the Bardo being doesn't have the aggregate form of a body, a physical body, but the Bardo being has all the other 4 out of the 5 skandhas, or 4 out of the 5 aggregates. The Bardo being has this aggregate of feeling, of perception, of cognition and of consciousness. So the only thing the Bardo being doesn't have is a physical body, but the Bardo being does have a mental body of perceiving him or herself as having a body. And so the Bardo being doesn't have so when the Bardo being, when the being dies, then the being tries to talk to his loved ones or relatives who left behind, but not hear them. We can't hear what they're saying. And so they experience a lot of suffering because of it. And and so they, the bodies, as they see the physical bodies being burned in the fire or sent underwater or buried underground, they have a lot of suffering, and they see their relatives giving away their possessions, getting rid of all of their belongings. And so the Bardo beings suffer tremendously. And also they don't see light like of the sun and the moon. So they're always in this darkness because they don't see the sun or the moonlight. And the Bardo beings, they don't really have any solid, stable friends or companions with them. They have to go alone in the Bardo. Their only companions are sometimes they encounter other deceased Bardo beings, but they don't really have a solid companion. They're alone in the Bardo, and they're kind of at the mercy of their karma, like a feather being blown in the wind. They don't have any like certain location, and the only way that they can eat and receive sustenance is by smell, by the smells that they get. And then also they have had to leave behind all of their loved ones and family and children and relatives from this life. And so they suffer tremendously, these Bardo beings, because they are chased from behind by the wild wind storms of their karma. And they are pulled in front by the minions of the Yamaraja, the Lord of Death. And so there's so much fearsome experiences in the Bardo state, like the 4 terrifying sounds. There are 4 terrifying sounds that arise to the Bardo being from the dissolution of the 4 elements of water, fire, air, and earth. So the water element dissolution produces the experience of this sound of like this wild ocean, like the sound of like rushing water of an ocean that's so massive. And then it's the fire, the dissolution of the fire element produces the sound of like the entire home being engulfed in flames, and you can just hear the sound of the fire cracking and all the flames burning. And then the dissolution of the earth element is like a giant earthquake, like the sound of the earth rumbling and shaking, or like a great mountain, like a massive mountain rumbling and shaking. And then the dissolution of the wind element makes the sound of like howling wild wind blowing. So they're terrifying sounds. And then also the 3 chasms, the 3 pitfalls that arise when the Bardo being has to see as the expression of their own karmic projection of the 3 poisons of desire, anger, and ignorance. They experience themselves falling through 3 terrifying chasms, black, red, and white in color. And these are the appearances or projections of their own karma, the manifestation of their 3 poisons. And so they suffer in this way, and also like being pounded by blizzards and cold rains, and being chased by the terrifying minions of the Lord of Death, yelling, get him, beat him, kill him, and so forth. So there are many terrifying experiences that the Bardo beings have to experience.
Then that Bardo said, Rani Jugo, and Kacharta, Poyo, Monada Trula. Yoma Tuba, such a melon with drop. 아니 제 타다 양카 아니 제 바도 그다 렌한근 직다 다 망고 제 샤용가 인데 근데 벌써 그 심지다 가드에나 제 대는 얘기 따나 다 주대사지 대지 마 주사 요사지 가와 용의 산에 대는 남라 주대바지 다 근데 소진에 다가 대를 타나 계와지 가드린 탐나 산나다 님세미다 근데 제 직다 그 주대바다 아니 제 계와리는 계와지 초대바기 보다 대 직다다 레도 간에 드르네 거리지
So the Bardo beings in this way, they suffer so much from like these blizzards and just being like overwhelmed by terrifying suffering. Like everywhere they look, the terrifying sounds of the terrifying chasms, the sounds that come from the agitation of the four elements, and all of these like tremendously terrifying karmic appearances that the Bardo beings have to endure. What happens is they become totally stricken with fear and panic. And they are basically constantly running, trying to find an escape, trying to find a place where they can be safe, a place to be free. And so these Bardo beings are like desperately kind of like on this flight of fear, this flight to find a place where they can be free from the Bardo experience. And so they have this desperation to take another body and to just find a womb and find a place where they can have refuge from the terrifying appearances of the Bardo state.
간로가 떼소네고 아니 이제 다 라왕다 떼소 가요 매바지 사블롱 코로나지 다 벌써도 되는 창고 요리 근데 진짜 레레가 나나 다 제와리 마토베 임바이나 양 진짜 레레네 다다 그 쳐와 그 집다 레레 아니 쳐와 레레 여기 쳐인 집다 또 하 레레 여기 다 되는 세나마 로데 요리스
Awesome. And so as all of the appearances of the present life have faded away, to be replaced by the terrifying experiences of the Bardo state, then the Bardo beings experience all of these terrifying experiences, and they are like a feather blown about by the wind, with no where they go. And then every week, so in a period of 7 weeks, every week, it's a full replay of the dying process of the terrifying experiences of the Bardo state happens over and over again over a period of 7 weeks. So each week, it repeats itself.
다 원의 값이 다 가지고 그러지. 다 넘바지지 좀 섬의 중간에 장고 레진 톨을 내지 또 숨어래. 다양 다른 안주지 천대의 바도 그냥이 때도 요가 있나. 근데 이제 뒤 다다게 게선다 냥내서 아니 뒤 값이 되나. 다 바도가 참 출발이 말이. 저당은 출발이 말이. 안주지 말람나 이제 덴바 마도베 말이 되는지 바도데 덴바 마도바 아니 이제 말람나 이제 출발이 봐 모시바 되다. 근데 라포트 아니 이제 천대를 나는 소비지. 가보 개와기 바샤데 되나. 아니 다 뒤값서 다 기치슈데 하나도 이제 대화지나서 생각해야 제타바기 근데 눈마도 때 보여요. 다 되면 눈마지 때 토나 양이야 휴지 가래 요리시나. 다다 나서 대화지 로상내야 말하자야 당 되니까야 성기 이제 고민한 점마도 가서 요양도 뉴데 근도도 해요. 근데 나 시대도 동도 이제 차대요. 다 산이 시와 바도 그까라 다 콜을 류기 다다기 류기 에네 조 공부나와 되는데 그 말람나 이기 아니 저 바도 류 아니 저 생글 자마도 밖에 요 말이 되는데 산 가라 때나 가나래 다다 나서 그 자하는 로사마 그 산지 제마다 피디제는 자하는 마도 다나 노다 마도 오이자 쇼고 그리 남들 저가 쏘고 그리 마모도 고도 얘는 벌써도 고 말하다 그때도 생글리자마도 영어를 산데 가나티나 다나 렘로데 근데 뒤가서는 또 산지로 봅니다. 안에 보고 지는 저한테는 너무 개비지니 그저 somos solo también. 내가 진라서 그 생각하는 듬바때는 되는 하나지 않는데 생각하는 듬바때 토바이마이나 생각하는 없다 그런 것도 그래. 근데 안에 진 듬바때 내가 진라서 보내 때는 그때는 하나지 않는데 생각하면 찌도 봐. 어떻게 되고 그래서.
맞아. So, at this time, oh, here we go. So at this time, then we have to have single-pointed intention, focus our intention single-pointedly. Because if in this life we have a little bit of practice with the Bardo teachings, then at this time, if we have a virtuous state of mind and we try to implement our practice, generally all the Bardo is our confusion, it's our deluded projection. Actually, it's just like a dream. It's nothing real. It's not actually inherently real. It's just like a dream. It is a delusory projection. And so if we recognize this, and especially like when we, in this life, like whatever virtuous, positive virtue and karma that we have this time, what's most important is that we have the fervent intention to be reborn in the Pure Land of Dewa Chen and so forth. Because when we are still embodied in this life, if we want to go to Dewa Chen, the most we can do is make prayers of aspiration. But when we are in the Bardo state, because we are no longer encumbered by a physical body, then simply by bringing it to our mind and meditating and just focusing our mind there, we can go wherever our minds, whatever arises in our minds, we are right there the moment that we develop that intention. But right now we can't do this because our consciousness is still encased within our body. Once we are in the Bardo and we are no longer bound by the physical body, we are just like, you have a body, but it's like a dream-like body. It's like a Bardo form, a mental body. And so wherever we place our mind, that's where we go. So if we place our mind on going to India, we focus our intention to be in India, at that very moment, instantly, we're right there in India. It's not like now. I mean, if we want to go to India, it's certainly not that easy. We have to apply for a visa, and then we have to get a plane ticket and go through all this trouble to get there. We can't just put our minds there and suddenly show up in India. But in the Bardo, we can. We can put our minds wherever we place our minds. We are right there. That's why at this time it is so important that we are able to hold a single-pointed intention and focus and pray to Buddha Amitabha, to Jinrezik, to our Lama, the three jewels, and supplicate and pray with a fervent intention to be reborn in the Pure Land, in Dewa Chen.
Then, the Kasi, that is Shanghai, Jewa Lima, Jima, Tobayana, Tapasi, the Tarishiba Nanji. Then ching jikra ki ta trigger ta ni Bardo ko dong han jikra de na lu chi ta mi ji solo den chan ni je khaja da po yo da ani je mumba da tin ji kana khaja da po yo da ja ba la so ba de to na ta ba trigger yo ro je so je ta na so ji ta le sa ji ju sa ji ka wa ra na sa na tin ji be ta san na ji de den ro ji ki ta je wa ji kana lin thom na 아니 진짜 네 바도 근직다 될 갑사 유사지 가와요나 산나티니 바도는 주 아니 되는 참되지 되는 지 로아도 기 지와기 아니 되네 되는 샤인데 되는 데이터 뭐시고
So if in case we are unable to be liberated in this phase in the Pure Land, what happens in the Bardo state is that the Bardo being is always running from the terrifying experiences of the Bardo state, all the suffering, all the horrid, terrifying appearances, make the Bardo being constantly just desperate to escape. And in this desperation to be free from these terrifying experiences, like think about it, like they walk outside of, like they're like without any protection, and then they go outside and they're being pounded by hailstorms, or they're being chased by bandits and so forth, and they're constantly basically vulnerable, and they're constantly being preyed upon by all these different terrifying experiences. So their natural instinct at this point is just to escape and to want to find a place to hide, find a place to run, find a place where they can just be safe and be covered and be protected from this open kind of vulnerable state that they are in, just in the middle of this Bardo experience. So that's why the Bardo being's instinct is to try and find a place that they can hide or they can enter, where they would be able to escape the Bardo state. And that's where the rebirth happens into the 6 realms of rebirth in samsara, is from that desperate drive to escape the Bardo appearances and to find a place, any place that they can hide and escape.
다 딘디에 야 참참스 바도게 딘디근 아니 딘 나와데라 라라 베나다 야리에 강다고 다 통용와 그 나와샤도 아주 딘나는 주샤바 임바이나 근데 야 라이올을 제도래 되는데 야 딘디 만주겠세 라이올을 데티 프리즘 소바디 요리데 얘는 디 데티데 두속직 조 차드 야 마음소지 고치단 크로바리 두속직 조 차드 야 마음소 니르와다 야다다 토노몰라 소바디 제고 요리드나 담을 줄드바 고가비요 말이 되는데 나나야 마송가세 근데 라마니는 지데 마토가 소바기 지니 그 동라고 샤르미 요리 나나야 만주가세 근데 안에 따다단데 토노라 지 작복라고다 자가 빠선도 되게 샤르 나나야 만주 근데 안에 따다단데 야다가 소바라지 따다단 나초당 nje tende yang khandaw tang tende nawa sharande tende layang manju dase tende che nyarwa la ane tatadan dong sak dong raw tang nje tatadan de khado na bo ke jingbu tende ke yon raw ta tende nawa sharande wata te ne song som da la da la ma yin la so ba ke jesa de no sa ba mo chi ba se de la manju ba se na tende na so ke mag tin de jewa de thok go yo de tene marketing de la tada tene jadan naso miki lengro chungchen chungba tene tongdo which that tene dam that dinana ngabuga rolo tempersa song de tene ne song la soba lam de la machi ban dumate tene ne je muluza topa ne tene dam jewa mulu de je topa kan dumate what that tene je progress.
And so at this time, there will be kind of portals, so to speak, into rebirth in any of the 6 realms. And so we have to make sure that we recognize that we are having this drive to escape the Bardo state, and recognize and then create that fervent intention that I must achieve a human rebirth. I must have a human body, and I must not go into the wrong kind of portal or door to rebirth in the other realms, like the God's realm or the jealous God realm or the 3 lower realms. And so we give rise to that fervent intention to take a human rebirth, because like for the appearances in the Bardo, like we might see like a mansion, like a celestial mansion, and want to run into that. But then we have to recognize that this is a portal into rebirth in the God's realm. And we say, no, I don't want to be reborn in the God's realm. I want a human rebirth. The reason we don't want to go into the God's realm is the gods, they have tremendous abundance of bliss and happiness and so forth. But it's a limited stay in the God's realm. And when the time of the God's realm existence is up, then the God being has to transmigrate, but because it's still samsara, So then the God realm has to fall to, the God being then has to fall to another realm, like the hell realm or animal realm or human realm, but cannot stay forever in that lofty state of the God's realms. So instead, we should strive to, and so that's why the God realm doesn't have the opportunity to accomplish Dharma. So if we see like a mansion of the gods, we should not run into it because we don't want to make the mistake of taking a God's realm rebirth. And if we see like a military base or something related to like army or something like that, then that's likely a portal to the jealous God's realm, so we don't want to go into that realm either. Or like we might see like a cave opening, or like something like a fissure or an opening in the rock or something like that. Those would be like portals into the animal realm, so we wouldn't want that. And like we might see like forests or like plains and want to run into that, and that would be like a portal into the hungry ghost realm, so we don't want that. Or like the hell realm portals would look like maybe like a pit, like a hole in the ground that we'd be going down into, or like some kind of black colored thing that we would try to enter into. So then we should recognize these as signs of being gateways to rebirth in the lower realms or into the jealous God's realm, and we should avoid these. What we want to do, what we focus our mind's intention on here is we want to attain a really good human birth, a good human rebirth. And so, like we see like the different human towns and societies of the human beings, we want to choose like the best possible human rebirth that we can. So the first thing is to make sure we have a fervent intention not to take a rebirth in the lower realms and to find a good human rebirth. So we want to focus our minds there.
Today, my that tango and it's Bardo can check out and Tsulnam to sharing my mind. The Bardo Jim Triple now, don't let them go trouble me. Which is Tiniji Shiva in Mayena, Bardo can check out as a shut of it. When I'm the Malam Ganana, Malanchi, Doja, Jibrachi, Live Jane, do Malamians about Moshi on Lapsan, Jibrat and Mevachan, don't have to Mevachan. Because it Malam Gananki, Jibrat, so Tsunami Machina, I'm not so young, harder to worry no. Semo Malam Ganana, that is don't have to Malam down with that, don't have to buy him by it. They tend to take Tsunayimba, Ranayimba, Denver Mother by Imbateshi over the Tambose. The Nivolata, Tadeshiva Najita, Jewa Katane Tona, San de Jewa Suriore. The new soldier and the Bardo getting Jikatas over true they do. And the Jika Kabla, Tamu around so in Rover, the Jewa Malamba, the Taki over it. Then the Jewa Lembaki, Yordan, and it is to live it. That is Pena Manzon Rover, the Jewa Limbo, Manchi, that's your Pamalas over the thing, Jewa Limbo. Tanya was over in my unit, Zontroga gun chain over your day. Then Mato Baggage, Pamalas over the thing, the Jewa Limbo. The DJ in the Pamalas over the Jewa Limbala, Nature Pamalas over Tona, Delity Chadana Soba, Numu, but Jesoma Mayena, the Nitin knowledge on the Jewa Limbo. The DJ you may in the Tapshita Mutela, Masokitin drop, the Jewa Tina Lima go, ya, the Wajin, Shanghai Jet over Tapi, Zogo. The DJ you may in the Jewa Layurki, Pomadam, the Linian and Zondeva, the anything not get Jewa, the Tabreno, Tom de Baina. Then Narboga is the Narboga is the kind of person, what they didn't tell me why in the sort of Chadanglo, my Tibesena. Then it the so Sanjay, the so Lama, the so Sanju, somebody, some Deva, Tananda, the Jewa in Baina, as a charging the Lord Jeyo, Chadanglo. Then the Tamunga city touch it down. Then it guards it today. That's Shanghai Jema, when you may not dango. Tangar dam said it, Rover to Hina Matia touches on the Nanzo. Deji got some of the Tana, Liola Tina, Deji Chayana, Liorga Deji, the Tamachu Yoma, that draw Migatin Jetaba. Then draw Miganania, Nanzo Tamachu Tasa, Chudenki, Shankam Rib, that the dealer Niji, Pomazambo, Nichi Chuta Yoba, the Tindiki, the Nichi Tabaki Tindinago, Dango Grace. What a Tinisoma. My cousin did nature, what is the Sunba? Lama Temper Jamsusi, that Labin, somebody shot. Consumed. Non so spesso non c'è morire, non so papà di città, spesso non c'è morire, non so papà di cena, dammi ciute, non so spesso non c'è morire sono, non c'è spesso non c'è, sempre musato del tavolo, sono da non è lindo a sa, non so papà di città, dammi ciute, c'è dei sono bene, non so di maumba, dei con sono madame senata, non so che non Muyurte Jachimoji, the son of Domador, Janharamuji, till Mahomba, the Dean of Donharmeba. And it is that Tawa, Sanjay Kompang Totobaji, the son of Dongo Yuri. They knew you may have that Tamachu and Ted. They ended that Chudin Kishan come to the Jet of the P, and the Jet was a Dango is. That is Silver Pandoki, the Miranda Sohir.
And so what's happening is when we have the arising of these appearances of confusion, then we have to recognize them to be that. They are just projections. They're not real. They're not inherently real. These terrifying appearances are just like a dream. Because it's like when we are in the dream, right? If we recognize that this is a dream, that it's not real, then all the terror and fear, it disappears, and the suffering is no longer real because we recognize, oh, I'm just dreaming, this isn't real. But when we don't recognize that we are in the dream and we're having a nightmare and we don't have any recognition that it's a dream, then we experience just as much suffering in the dream as we would in the during the day when we are awake. Why? Because either way we don't recognize it as a dream. But when we recognize the dream to be a dream, we know, so it's the same way with the Bardo state. It's like a dream. If we can recognize that all these terrifying appearances and sufferings, that this is just my own delusion. This is my own self-appearance, self-projections. This is not inherently real, first of all. And if we want to do this. And secondly, when we are in this state with all the terrifying appearances of the Bardo, first thing we have to try to do is try not to take a rebirth in the 6 realms at all. So the first thing we want to try to do is to not go into the samsara, into the 6 realms, but to be reborn in the Pure Land of Dewa Chen. So that's the first thing we want to try. So for example, when we are in this state where we are getting ready to take our next rebirth, most of us, if we are going to be born in the 6 realms, we will rely on a father and a mother coming together to be able to take rebirth. So we would be entering the womb of our future mother. So for example, when we see a male and female engaged in sexual union and whatnot, we should make sure we don't have the arising of attachment and aversion, because it is that attachment and aversion that will cause us to enter into the womb of our future mother. So when we see the father and the mother engaging in that way, try to suspend thoughts of attachment and aversion. But instead, if we can see this as, oh, these are bodhisattvas, these are Buddhas, this is the Lama and consort, and something like that, and give rise to faith and pure view, then when we have faith and pure view, then this blocks the arising of attachment, then there won't be any attachment. So then this is how we block the door to rebirth in the womb. So in other words, we try first not to go to the womb, but to be reborn in Dewa Chen purely. If in case we were unable to be reborn in Dewa Chen, then the next step is try to choose the best possible rebirth. And so if we're thinking of happiness and pleasure, the rebirth in the God's realm, there's a lot more bliss and pleasure in the God's realm than in the human realm. However, you don't want to make the mistake of choosing temporary happiness and pleasure of the God's realm over a human existence. Instead, we should focus on wanting to take a human rebirth in a place where the Buddha Dharma is flourishing, in a in a realm where there is Dharma, and where we would be exposed to the Dharma. And try to enter into a womb of a mother who would provide us with that in a place where Dharma is flourishing. There's a retreatant Lama named Lama Tenzin Gyamso. Tenzin,
Temba Janso.
Temba Gyamso. Tenzin Gyamso.
Achazo Nupso to Kishera, Tisu Lama to Hako Mada. Lama Samba and Chuba to Kedaji.
He's not like a famous name Lama, he's like a retreatant hermit named Temba Gyamso. And he used to say, he would said once, oh, we are so fortunate, we have such great merit to be born as Tibetan people. Because we were born as Tibetan, we met with Dharma. And so that really gave me some, reassurance. Like it really reassured me in a new way that I never thought before. Oh yeah, it's really true. I guess I am pretty lucky to be born as a Tibetan, because Tibetan people, he said, we have exposure to Dharma. We're born in a place as a Tibetan person, you're brought into the Dharma. So in that sense, it's really something so fortunate. So that's why we should not have a short-term goal. Like if we only focus on immediate future of like bliss and pleasure of the gods, then we're missing the longer goal, which is our ultimate benefit, the long-term picture, that we want to achieve complete, ultimate, everlasting happiness, which is the state of liberation and Buddhahood. That's how we should think. That's how our intention should be. So that's why we want to try to choose, when we're in this bardo of becoming, the ideal circumstance of rebirth in a place, a pure land of Dharma, a place where Dharma is flourishing. In a human body.
Today in the Papa to Sadia can Sanga.
Now there's going to be fighting amongst the Bardo beings trying to get the Tibetan
That's it. That's super part of the ten. I'm so Devachin last over the Shanghai Jet of Bayana. That's super part of the drone to Zotsar. Then Mazan also Korva the drone and Zotsar. The next Kazi in it, Shanghai Jet Matoba Bayana. Roar do kind of one chin over. Then that's super part of the tenant job done by it. Then the Jinji. Jiwa Jin Lang said that Jin Bardo said a young goats of Yumari. Corvus it in no. That's about Tambo and it generated, then Chigari. Then they take Chawak and the Tormara, Siba Pardon, Machuni Pardo, Siba Pardon Road. Then a young and they take Tormara, Jiwa Jin and the. Then I am young, Jin and goats of Yat, and then Corvus in Tinino. Roar relative, Corday did it. It is Jig and Angela Sobaka, Corva the Doma Mambuti Yavali. The Tinama, Corva the Seba member, Corva the Chance, then Corva the Doma. That Tinity made it, the Bardo be treated as Savo, Kokabia walk, Tinity Maris. Then Paja Bardo Creata, Tinity.
Then in the Bardo of becoming, if we are able to attain rebirth in the pure land of Dewa Chen, great bliss, then that's the end of the Bardo of becoming. That's the end of the samsara story. The samsara story is over, and then we are liberated in the pure land. We are born in the pure land of Dewa Chen. But if in case we have not been able to be reborn in the pure land, and then we go through the Bardo of becoming and end up taking rebirth in one of the 6 realms, then that's the end of the Bardo of becoming and the beginning of the Bardo of this life. And this is samsara, the wheel, the cycle. See, from birth to death to the Bardo state, and then again rebirth and death in the Bardo state. This endless cycle of samsara, this is what happens. So if we are unable to be liberated during the Bardo of dying or during the Bardo of Dharmata, then we go through the Bardo of becoming, then we have to take another rebirth, and then we have the Bardo of birth, that is that life, and that feeds into the Bardo of dying from that life, and then the Bardo, again, repeating itself as this endless cycle. This is called samsara, and then we have the tremendous sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death, and then this inexhaustible, endless cycling in the samsara. So that's why having these Bardo teachings is something so profound and such a wonderful opportunity. So I think that pretty much wraps up the Bardo teachings. So since we have some time left, I'm going to offer the reading transmission, the loom for the Bardo Tudru, the liberation upon hearing Bardo teachings. So in the future, if you're able to do the practice and recite it, it's a great blessing, great benefit. But even if not, this will hopefully set up the virtuous seeds, virtuous habitual imprints in you. So I will offer the transmission now. Oh, it's just I mean, I guess. So the transmission will begin now.
Satu jaro gumbaran rola chuni bata zanda dhidor jengu shizawa yodo chugan namanda ya vamen dung yuzo ka pema shidula pema yundu chogan rogandu kazan lama nana sansalo namjaran dana bado choga tara tudu jengu dada donso na mundo uja samdan somi na tamu mundo yuki provaya tete ramba thoma nyandalang wambara na tikchini bato tema tonen cheka bado lam powa temba rando nyandalang kena namjaran dana ni bato tema tona chuni bado la tudu jengu dada nendinsu tela tambo namjaran chawa takwa na cheten sema rando da tawarsa tenan ngemar jewa ta chama jen powa temba rando tawarsa ten powa tena na tudu la mugute katen powa matana tudu nde roe tsa data sawar la barsa romi na chende je masa ando ka dela demba tobyude na chiko landanda ngemar magi la barsa te tuse nyeda dan sena zevan zahi zo ngake dan henga yena doma rome tamra ko royo na so che namo ma che ban samso lama che do san deba taba yin tunga chongji la so ba nawa chu ma ra ba zam de la tudo jingmon de la ba sa wo de la tudo nu she ba na kon jo so man che ba ja jingmon bol man jo da mo go de gan jo shang na ye je ba da me ba to la ju de na san ji da san jo sum ba na ram da de mo ma na de lin de na som no de na ba de ji kyo mo ma na da ba do tran do ji ma na da ba de za zen na ta ba yang de de da ga de na tudo jingmon de la ne le de na som go ra ka da je la la ba na chi ga ba do la sa ra mo do ba de chi ni ba do la Mokro sanda jumbo tawada siva padola narko gadam dembada somata muchika padoza motobananda kanza kowasan mo matubadan puja kombe chumana sosu jewo nyamchi sho nyoro tangilanda da beje wasala mo to te pado meba yarje sanda to chuke jewo meba tabo 다로네 라가 대지가 자와다 만존나 조인도 때 만존나 체조 담적 기관한테 만존나 주주지 비치니 담반테 나 가용 만존나 이게 자다를 찾아 농시바지 기 차만도 로고 이 라메 모데가 동지는 데마다도 예어서 모두도 들어가서 미도 다버드는 소체는 난 롱이 기저도 되거든 시바워서 주저도 라비자로 데나 롱로데 자 이용도 주는 것도 나와라는 자리 자 이용도 마셔로 바르데 다고 유는 소체 나오네 제 바르 신제 사용자제 유는 다로는 오체라게 붙는 보았다느라 마더는도 계제도 제르지보 제 그모주다는 람자로 둘은 바바도 체랑하고 체마게도 바도다 모여 서리시서 말라면 뭐 베드 동대 소체보다 주님 나가다 동진에 와서 동타고 매베르 빠트미 dim바신 찬노모테 그래서 저런 거 뭐시 버til데 만도 쇼진에 저때 그래서 모테도 시소 마제바 거는 나와 레몬도 시라 이런 자도 좀 근데 소제가 담나로 예바 살아 봐도 쓰는 도간데 되게 자바다 쩨마 얘네 로자니 반도지나 도 되는 롱도 되는 소로미 상호변에서 동도 로전데 되다고 되도 봐도 균이 되어서 시선 추구공 것을 말하고 시인 로아까지 지금 저거에 대해서 어제는 나온 마제가 받은 롱아 받도 되는데 바로 하는 남치 자세로 유는 이거 밑에 띵상이다 자몽 거를 막 있는 양내 동네 여바다 신내 템포 여바다 자자원을 나는 유는데 내가 유도 대라 담보는 뭐 그런데 nentin자로 담보 왕부 버거를 최선을 마동지 받을 줄도 못도 보지 장내 버려는 요점을 세월이 연에 만나와 요도 라레 생사용자는 만나와 이런 도주 파지를 샤시다 이제 잡을송바 파체샤 시다 이제네 배워서 모터 반들은 nen디서 나로는 통나간 거 공부 못하면 마도 라마 로마 제로 로선지 바지 자자데 디 다는 사주 탐바 다다보 신데 제가 봐도 같으면도 정말 그래도 시바는 rem버 따라서다라 다나 rem버 조가 그거데 심지인도 보고서 제를 보지서 라마이나 동바라 투지 많이 맞아 저지게 인도게 중중유저 제로 단지 매연은 몰라도게도 제를 보다는 저와지서 오늘도 그죠 심진다 단조제 제마 나는 제가 들어 봤는 높게 다 된지성 동거리 송발이 다른 제반들 때는 삼림제 산육이 선바지가 토끼는 남과다님 심지 담지도 돈도 놓고 산지지 고모도 벌써 냥도 삼지보다 제보다 다리 심지 담지도 돈은 제와와서 죽음을 집어사대 뛰는 사자 좀 조금으로 좀 심지 담지도 돈 사오 때마도 저 바도 뭐시 벌써라 바도 숨겨 사자 좀 고문도 세는 강을 강도 나면 남건타다 냥 심지 담지도 돈 사오 냥 심지 좀 돈도 말어 지랑 말 강을 공부하게 당어대 영역에 먼저지 나와 초대를 책사를 제대 그게 영역을 좀 영역에서 보면 소체 차와단 자니로 자도니라 저기 사람들에게도 보라마는 집이니 뭐 동보라 나래라다 지어서 천우유도 모시바지 영역에 도던 요가도 이제 던년도도 제대로 제 그문이 주다다도 주니다고 해서 천우유도 모시바지 제대로 저랑 게다들 시르금 뭐 상해와 누구보다 생각하고 제 뭐 말하고 동상에만도 왔다가 주니권도 좀 있는 주랑 그다음에 제랑게 시르 동도 전에 동바사지도 마송바랑게 시르 망가 살레스냐 발레만다가 저파산이 권도 좀 있는 남게 저 보면 뭐지 말하고 뭐 동바다는 게 시르 발레서 원도 건데 이게 무슨 번도 관다가 산지 추측거에 있는 랑게 저파서도 있는 우리 공부 좀 우리 관다가 제대로 산지 오면 저 관다가 있는데 모시베 조고시 저와 그 값을 다던데 바고선 추고샤는데 다때 모시바 잠저 존로요 나도 유는 공자야 당 근데 좀 배종이나 돼요. 다티 예거 서때 모시바 테마타다 따다는데 그래서 쳐봐 주고 돌아오고 대는 나는 좀 보기 상하도지 터바게 추거나 체제로 상자와 담아여서送的 다때 대조 마도 바게 따다다네 아주 류대 요기는 제가 자는 포와체 먹고 거로 이제는 마도 바게 센더다는 상자야마도 대화티는 로야만도 아니 저 류대 마방게 상지서야 돼 가보래 다 체제가 상지하세요 단 니까네 다 마모지 상지하 더 로이래 랑거를 뭐 시베 쪽으로 시를 뭐 동상에도 상지에서 모시는 랑거를 봐라 랑거다와도 상지에 공부하는 조가 있는지 렌소만도 이거도 다 벌써 가지고 되는 다 하려면 뭐 제가 뭐 저거지 이거 라는 게 뭐서도 뭐데 숨에 라는 신의 주간다는 거 그대로 좋아하는 저때 와서라 담보랑 뭐 저때 저로 양가때 와서 담은 맞아는 돈이 양 와서니 버시 저한테 속체는 신체 사용자는 너무 내장이 이제 자연 가능제도 농촌의 고 가능제는 통도 시바살 남진 차고 대연생 사용의 장영장이 당량의 여미당 동의 대전한 비설정마다 시와이는 마시바 있는데 오늘 민집에 내준다고 하기는 동 모든 둘레전 토나가 보양 샤르 신진직가장 말럽제 번데 양 담아도 더더더 조런 받은 지는 번이서 조런 번이나 뭐가 공고서 못해 봤다가 자다고 지는 번이나 코란들라 강이 받을 공고당만 돌아도 제대로 지는 게 예담도 공제 많이 좀도 맞고 예담도 또제 나나라님에 그 천안가 다와도 공제 뒤제도 막고 제자도 보고 담을 번이나 조투게 좀 뽑아 지내서 거기 지금으로도 되는 모두가 받는 거지만 매생 이반남게 심바 태성미도 대연 수비도 라면 못해 공리 정말 바도라는 사람은 더 라만 치료진이 벌써다 부서 양 공리 제가 내주다고 저는 대마면서 그래서 담반데 티려 무슨 나를 란제 공리 유저 너무 좋아서 싸웠던데 저는 도와달라 근데 현대는 구조 바도 담보를 때 만드는 바도 니발라 살다 베르가 센터 좋아했는데 바도 니발은 마다비 줄이기도 시안 마시 뭐 마시 버세 시바살라메 되고데 되서 담바 근데 주님 마을 되는 레저가 조도미도 변는냐면 우좀 바좀 맞인다 남제 와서르지 레저는 바좀 좋아했는데 바도 니발기도 예주를 수나게 저거는 시공하기도 도요도 거로테 되서 남한테도 도무도 다른 레전드나 마저베 감도연 조도도보 때도게 와서는 뭐 만도게 봐도 니가 와서는 뭐 두대도 지정 마도는데 봐도 숨바야서 주니게 봐도 샤도 봐도 숨바 레전드나 사와한테도 오마데 뒤저 주니 봐도 모두 좀 올라와가 때도 또단 배우신의 저대 자는 이런 거 뭐게 단나 동 세제 세가지 구이셔 마사사랑 그 콩난 통야 콩난제 라마도 콩남제 랑의 부장 최장 랑의 부가 콩남제 마트에 년무가 세den로 대두즈로 세선전 하와이는 직접 나좀지 잔네 신직장 한좀지 잔네 오늘 대두즈 주니바도 모두 좀 받아 봤을 체내지면 뭐라 다다 사람들에게 제를 봐봐야 받는 말은 이제 받는 나바로 이나가 이들 아니지는 받는 말이 받는 그냥 사람들이 받는 저거 받는 주니비 받는 요즘에 받아도 저거제를 지고 졸라는 받아 somnyon데 체크 받아도 주니 받아도 시바 받아 som저에 가장 근데 체크 받아도 주니 와서 하는 주쟁 맞은 벤들 장구 송아이노 다음에 제가 주니지 받아도 당시다때 체크가 그 받아는 조마 더운데 다 주니 받아도 다 받으니면 라요 말로 다네 til라 주니지 받아도 시바 받아도 니용데 다고 모테바나 치랑 많이 봐 무슨 버티지 제를 받아는 제가시 사와데 더 바이는 지금은 바로도 주기고 많이 그는 용에 챈다가 차바다 신방마저제 차바다 신방마저제 더원음이 주는 거 관점받으며 마자지 많이 거로도 이제 저버지에 제르지고 주니버드 나만 지라제다 견내서 주랑 챈다 마지바 지라 지금이라 전연의 손제 되고 주변에 요도 이마다를 주니 거던 저든데 그나마다 지난 번에는 간절하나 그 뭐지서 바드 나조 임바시바서 던진 가라 토고 투tun데 타나시도 솔라만 이제 맞아 되게 나는 방 유도 도예를 대인의 손지 빈지다가 나마체다게 라노도 미바몬도가네 바에 마디제 제르기고 주제 르단 산다고 투즈 주니 따고 나와 타다 따와 선에서 왔다 라니 따살냐 나와 수가타는 후견조하기는 매래는 차동 때다 마디기 말하지 망하게 되는 저런 그 주니지 람당이 뭐 시발지제 오전하는 주니저라나 라다 잘도 완도도 되도 와선 들으러 대처랑 그 주니저라 라다 이메데로 만지 말하지 망하게 출로 바자디 얘기 루시사와디 유지 루지 샤라도 르는 메베 라우세선 간소양 출로 너바마운데 출로 제주미도 저랑 그 라나도 모시베 저거 바도 이메 모시바지 제레저 다다 라나도 뭐 마시는 마요도 공로체다 세제 다다제 담만다 담만데는 우지지서 대하서 세제 타고 담만데는 마시는 다우서 선보 마시면 코반장 제레주 고샤세다제 바도 시발자른도데 절 상마는 나데 죄송 냐면 나와주 줄이 바도 모시바 나 지제 대전 코와도 나와다 요도 그저로 나가다 요도 가던데 저로 때 우소텔에 다비생하는 좀리는 나왔는데 그노 가버스니 타도 요가 사는 콜로즈지 나와 영남과 인도마다 자조르네 라는 자동은 남을 집어 풍문에서 다고 내가 주지 이제 가다 내가 사는라 당과 다른 서와지 남버는데 현재도 가는 중앙계는 저랑 건도 먹다 무서워 담서는 대단히도 하여 가고 담에 가진 된도 오대시만 저런데 研究网购，他当然的这个去年你写的去年画的照片的出现，那有搞不上面的就搞你写的那个，到那我他那上面这么着。吃了饭当那炸鸡巴就给我在那点了忙啊，就么着个，点了这边去过，就去年去稍微点点了点把它木动作，就那那么那个样就就这样，那家子就我那个木把去了说了头去，点那就那那那么那个样就把这张啊说完了我们那么那这就就这也弄他就搞不着没把这个嘛。马这就点了，去年东北这不是个乌鸡烂面弄点了，马下去马进去点了抢了，那也是抢的肉的可能。他不啷个不把这人别点了，没个嘛到我，他个长得精点了没把这了，那么他这也用对不着过头，嘛这个大概的我觉得说到这，现在咱们这跟国外讲不这一些就比如说，比如那就那那把那这那种研究因素嘛，还有讲那就保证就跟他们这都这样都做不成就是。这木味照顾嘛那大本那把那这样就突然家务的他那说都不个不行的，弄就做不个上街本就喽。yang kata modu je sedang da degap ji chung jo u dan sel ta na tu de mana ta jang yang chon sha ni ba la do ji sim ba la do dan nyar ba le ni je so wa wong de yang mo de ban chen de mo ne ku dan de ge de je je ba ma yong ba ni sha ni ba la jo wa chen na ba da wo ga ba jo de de sha so ma ma ga ba chen na da na jo ni de do ji sim ma jo ba kum do na sa na do ji na ba na ba la mo de de na jo wa yang za de je ma da ge de na ra na ja do mo sa jo ma sa ye mo da sa ma me de ni la san ba 산마 라세마도 그거는 이제 그는 산이 이제 거주는 저도 뭐 저기 보면 내저다 보고 보면 너도 이시 걸어서 와서는 뭐 저도 좀 연결도 가는 저런 것도 뭐 그다 뭐 저거 저는 저는 대단한데냐 왜 또가 다음에 뭐 제정도는 이게 요새 지금 뭐 대도 저 제당료 광고 가고找的么得了就我的找我进的直接年路就搞找没得就搞问题去弄个得到我搞不找的是吧少了当么得了就维系着我去不就得了得把他们把东西就那个都是什么不过在因为叫做就我们没把记了说都就等那个都是什么就把东西找的说的我们也弄都是什么突就这就这个因为没把记年路都搞找没得了搞嘛这就得就现当照顾啥个得这什么拉面弄得了强了就年本来说弄的东汉是因为做本当的做的全部对我们有个得他不让搞不把这因为得了没个嘛到个现当不也得了马家就马家有搞不少人这个得了没把这就那个东西什么人就嘛找不到嘛那个就到就前面现当这工作完全没这没弄一些事儿嘛就那东西什么人那都用就三节就没得那个把东西本上的都是样都是不生事儿就去没找嘛那좀 내데 도지 선바 토간 야우도 때는 샤송은 버가 신도 동교도 그 상제 반조로 대한 때다도 뭐 대장 나자도 되게 간다 투기워서 저기는 저도 주변에 양 샤송바도 좀 내데 이제 좀 내려도 매요 이제 소랑데 양 오래반에 세네 점은 보던데 얘를 좀 많이 번이제 샤송바는 좀 상한 버도 우스면 저 대대 보도 버도 되면 생각서 보는 좀 내데 이제 거도 서 사는 거로 뭐 되는 것 같은 거 되는 좋아요 연조 마마가 나야를 전하는 자동은 산조스만 그 정도도 끝나서니 됐으면 마마가 그러니 이거는 자동으로 산지 제거도 자동은 서로 공유해서 그래서 그냥 많이 살라도 같은데도 들리는 마살다 마마가 담아서 가기는 이거는 자동은 저런 거 되는 거 되는 담아서 버서는 되는 거 매우 뭐 처음에 같이 이게 요래 시만 저런 게 생각서는 대비도 저런 아들 지원고 우서 뭐 좀더 되는 이제 자기는 주진 매우 뭐 처음에 되는 주가 가와다 쳐지지 나온기 대단한 저런스 우서보서라 당만 따라 당만데라 마디고 이시도 뭐지 버지 때 도다가 버서미도 나도도 쇼데 야나 데라 데바다 무도 노지 저런 거 거란다도 모시나는 무고 맞아요 하나 맞아 듣고 다 나와서 간제 저런다 예미다 탄 상제반jo 그래서 거란다도 마시나는 좀 내내든지 좀 내지 두비워서 이는 저서 저거는 무지라 서로가 더 되는 좀 내내든지 좀 내지 두비워서 저기 뭐지 요 뭔가를 내가 맞이제 추경 맞아도서 가져지 수마라면 어때 맞아 대라 차는 제가 매내서 제가 난 지금만 요 코로나는 타고 좀 맞는데 타고 나고 바지 때는 맞도 마다와 맞아 보이 바자 보이 제가 맞아 맞이 이제 웃을 거 살란처럼 되는 거 가지고 좀 내리는 중에는 좀 맞이제도 또 하나도 또 제가 맞아도 거 완전히 저는 시스로 좀 내리는 중에는 나도 이제 마마게 되는 거거든 좀 그래서 야도 그 산이 살죠 되게 뭐도 하나도 좀 내리는 중에 저도 가는 저도 되는 소소 받아 되면 생각하는 거도 보고 산제 반조로 되다 못하고 뭐 제가 신경 들어가 태서 매도 양 되다 내만은 못 되죠 mất được bộ chế là số ba tạm chức nhà là số ba các thế giới là ta đông yang một chút cái đó ông cái đó cho được cái chuyện đầu lên chơi được bây giờ sáng chơi bao giờ chúng nên nào thấy là tôi đang được cho sinh là cho bây giờ đó cho là như số ba đấy yang một chế mà nên trên này mình nó mua được cái đó chơi được cái chuyện mà yang cái chuyện sáng chơi bao giờ nhiều mình nào bắt đầu mà cũng chơi được thế thì nó được vào chính chẳng khác mà bọn này chúng nên nào đấy con nào mà sáng bên mà nào mà thế này cái vậy cho cái cái mà đó cái cho nên cho sinh số mà chính là nhà mình như là xem bằng cái đó mà nào mình như con này giàu cho nó sinh như con đó nó cho nó mình chỉ cho bọn này là bao số số đó tôi chỉ sao là bắt đầu là tự nhiên mình là 살아당 왔다는 저 와이언 산에 나온다 이제 도가는 저런 그냥 내데 그냥 그 다음에 산도 소는 모델 만제 제대로 냠도 여다리 오서 보다면 봐 제다 이게 어디 좀 맞추는 저런 모델 뭐가 어디 이제 저기 보이대 그래서 좀 더 저러고 방금 뭐 보다는 제대로 가지는 주서 오제 여다리 오서 보다면 저 중가 와서 저기는 온 게다가 좀 오말 보다는 저러고 산다당 모델 만제 이게 좀 맛이 받지 돼 또들 와서 밑에 오는 거 야나 내가 대바도 뭐 같은 거 지지 저런 거라도 좀 지나는 뭐 맞아 만나 맞아 주고 다 맞아 근데 저런 거 예미도 되는 산지 반주로 세다 마기는 좀 되는 나온데 두개 와서 이는 저도 저거냐 뭐 무지라서 와서 이제 되는 좀 되는 나온다 이는 두개 저기 와서 이는 뭐 말이지 주자 저런도 뭔가 봐 영어 말이 여다 좀 웃어 보다면 내가 잡아 맞아 이제 주전도 자도 웃어 보 바뀌어 주는 라면도 내가 자는 주 여다 되는 어느 지금도 맞아 매번 타나가 버버지 이메데는 먼저 바뀌어 보니 많이 이제 오늘 보살은 제가 되는 거 같이 이제 좀 있는데 나한테 야는 맞지 저도 또 하는 데가 제만 되다 보고 영어도 저도 유저로 하는 게 나한테 나를 이제 그거 많이 저도 받은 게 원통도 야나도 보살이 살게 되게 무기적으로 만나다 그 좀 되는 나한테 범이 언제도가 겨우도 되는 너도 내가 진짜 지나서 누구도 그 산재반적으로 어디 머저면서도 양대 다른 모델 자심지 바뀌었던 거요 왕게 바뀌어 마방바 차도 단내니까 왕게도 우나마다 뒤에 두려워서 저기 맞아서想하고 봐도 많은 전에 뒤에 좀 있는 또요 저거라도 두려워서 제대로 서만 용용과 차도를 저거 가면 이제 월남지 장소 바로 뭐지에서 모태반의 체내점은 문 보다도 그래도 저렇게 뭐 많이 버주지 想하고 봐도 용왕도 나버다고 오장을 제로 대도 산소 레랍 조게 생각나 좀 되는 산제 돈요 저거 건도죠 장그산도 도제 장나는 뭐 가대샤는 것도 저거 연도도 좀 하다 시작전에라는 저도 뭐 선바 산도 도제다 저번 나와서니 니에서 망게네 맞는 너도 많이 거는 저도 오지는 산지서 거는 저도 뭐 주지 공원에 저도 오장그 사와도 이게 장나서 살는 저거 그래다 특인지 제바제 돈으로 봐야 저도 근데 저런 게 제가 뭐 같은 거 선도 좀 때나 맞아 가지고 그리고 이게 란사라니 자단이랑 매바다뇨 사미지 문난도 저제 대단한도 남아인 거 말부터 그저 저바타 매바티 이게 저도 이제 저도 뭐 때나 자단 매바다뇨도 그게 데가와 맞이지 저도 저도 왕게 오장을 떠는 저 때나 그는 남아인 거 말부터 그저 가와 저지 나온 게 대단 오장을 떠는 저 와서도 맞대나 맞아 이게 좀 뭐시 버지 또 와서미 좀 나도 그게 양나 주니데 또 유튜브 투비오자 이런 저는 저 양도 무지라서 와도 되는 주니데 또 유튜브 투비오 여기 와서 사와도 이게 저서 아니면도 뭐 같이 말을 주장 주는데도 매가 오는데 많이 개라마이 요 말고도 되다마 내가 저번 맞이 되는 주제 다더라고 사물에 주스만 나오면 내가 자는 주라마이 되는 또 문서도 주도 나저랑 매번에 탈랑하고 빠지면 되나 맞아고 바뀌어보니 맞이 이제 오장 그 살은 서버 되는 뭐 받지라 좀 내도 유튜브에 하는데 맞게도 또 만만한 데도 또 이제 맞다라고 뭐 그냥 서로 이게 서로 하는 주는 유튜브에 하나로 인도도 되는 받은 주문하는 야나도 세서 대단 무기다고 만나다가 좀 되는 또 유튜브에 하는데 들어가는 오장을 저는 선도내려서 그 심어서 또 선교가 대다들 뭐 많은 것도 연초 제다기네 뛰는 맞아 이제 뛰는 뭐 두대 게임으로 그래서 양대도 내만 뭐 되게 바뀌어 생기는 도요도 다는 이게 전화지면 모두 이제 바뀌는 데서 되게 두개와 저기 제 전화는 보다 제가 되는 저도 뭐 되서도 도전 되서 저도 뭐 되거나 지나는 그때 가지고 많이 저 가상 이제 그러나 소중 나와게는 모두들 좀 바뀌는 뭐 뭔가 되나 하나가 집에 다 빈주 돈들 많이 되는 돈이 지고는 이기라는 때 라한도 모시나 그러나 소중 거는 여우도 타는 것도 상대들이 뭐다 주지 뭐 많이 받아온 좀 다는 많이 것도 있잖아 그러나 용도 되나 이게 이게 되나 이제 가지고 많이 뭐 집에 제를 기본 영화에 나와다고 가도 제대로도 내 우주도 통해서 그냥 산에 남는 양고는 저로 자동으로 가면 지만 산에도 있어 말이야 거다 제가 되는 거도 빠지는 지만 산에 뒤지는 양고도 제가 자동 소배 맞은 거 대화 뒤지는 산에 나온다 양고도 제가 자동 무슨 내가 또 지만 산에 또 가는 거도 내가 우주로 줄어다는 제를 기본 나제를 기본나 되는 서로도 좋아하는 거와 좋은 거 되는 게 되게 같다는 게 같은 보면 저기마다 저거마다 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 나이야도 바오 저기다 라마인 저도 받아들이는 나이야도 바시가도 소송도 바스니라 되는 게라지도 바까마마다 냐면 더바바 주제대로도 준대도 바로 인자도 못 건너 상도 건너 상도 산이라는 팀이 건너 상이 안되는 농구 사소 기대산이라는 얘기는 나는 서는 주는 자동을 주는 다른 상황을 겨워 입은 것이 바지 제를 주고 제가 대다 진전의 여바만이도 저런 그 힘도 소개다고 하는 내가 있는 영은 따라서는 또 저런 되고 거대는 진전은 와만이도 저런 그 거란도 얘는 조가 이미 되다 뭐 지버지 제를 주고 거대다 같이 와만 좀 완전히 가진 저거 가도 나도 죽더라는 게 진짜 되고 거대는 나는 소문지만 마세들에가 오는 거 주다 제가 옆 찾는 거를 있으면 나는 여기 찾는 거를 있으면 좀 어떤 일을 제가 저번에도 되는 여다가 이번 것이 같이 제를 주고 많이 되다 또 가는 이게 되는 신도 하나님 많이 먹어서 받아들은 것도 되네 전환전년 가져도 온데 대한 다음은 한번 남자도 가는 주인이 갈라서 왔다는 동안에 만나면 저런 거 님한테 되는 마다 정말 와서 되는 것에 전다 틀레가 벗어다 되면 메롱카 보바점이 신도는 싸워다는 소리에 라니 되는 게 맞는 다도 우메 받들에도 되게만 저런 노래스도 하는 메롱다고 있습니다. 사람 남한테 틀레한테가 여여 보바카 보바다 틀레다 틀리게 좀 저런 뭐 이유네도 가는 양만이 이게 살아서 남한테 틀레서 서서 보바카 보바다 틀레 틀리나 제반 저도 뭐 나오는데 이제 도가는 수도 또 이게 말해서 남한테 틀레만 보자다 되고 변을 수도 또 보바카 보도 이게 되는 데도 마신다 살는데 어때 라니 되는 게 대한 다음에 받들에다 틀리게 좀 저런 문제는 저런 게 생각을 내가 맞아 좀 배려주고 되는 저런 거 또 그래서 가와이는 이게 너무 많이 나타나 차고 맞아 이제 저번에 맞아 받는 걸 모두 보는 놀라 주디 뭐 거다 오다 또 저런 어떤 산재 가지고 저렇게 싸워도 이게 또 그냥 주제로 로이 란절 맞아 보면 한 어제를 저번에는 이게 주제는 하면서도 돌려서 뭐 거는 거랑이나 돼 주는 라메 모테가 담아 때마치 주제 모테가 또 지난 할게요 나와 되는 이 제가 마고 대바다와 난디가 매신 동아지는 것이들 로도 대바다와 라나는 뭐 집에 주인 남바다고 난 요람에 바이마 이 집에 주인 되는 데 저번에도 좀 먹어라는 거 저거 상계돼서 뭐도 보지 이렇게 보다가 이게 그냥 마다 저번에 저러고 제가 때가 라이오 가보다미다 라마이 좀 먹어다미다 매요 오면 보다미다 돈주 장가다미다 게다죠 세보다미다 냐부터가 다음에 봐도다가 이게 저도 시험하는 저도 뭐 대단한 저런 오 강에 맞은 바 차범을 이제 뭐는 보는도 저게 주다와 이게 저보다 다시 마다를 좀 그거보다 자는 도와를 그러는 거보다 맞을 때도 제가 타고 뜨는 거 오절로 계속 이거 줄라면 담아게 모두 매바제에나 공급거다 다와 이게 저보다 이제 기타는 마당 걸어오다 차동에 대단 맞을 거 다와 이게 저 우타는 저 때는 무지 좀 내려가나 되고 투기 이게 저다 tuk진진 bala song sambaran doge chadun chiwonye ba muban suje chobare ro ko na macha maji ba sanjera nga yo na ndumba chege do tula malan doge do jema tonga ta mo ban jong zo yi ji jo sa ro na chung de jawa na jawa chen na na do jim jo ren na yong ji jan jo pa do 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 so pa do ji wo na da na ta bu xin chong na le ja do so ro te da mo na da be ra ra na mo chi ne ni mi da tong san je son de mu da mo chi na to ba to ta me ja ma na ba ta mu de do ge ji wo ka ni yi ji tong do na do ji sin空中的浪上结婚就罗样得到的小的时候我这边罗瓦些结婚就蒙住的这个蒙的就他们没有了去就保险也能没得对进的当年那时候刚开始个来讲说呢我这叫蒙住嘛了差不多我晓得嘛了到光可以香港的人那就那种是吧了我这就是因为我把他们个这个登记啦登记完了直接是吧了我们这就是让我这边的现在就不过这个就个嘛因为晓得嘛了大家现在到我稍微看到就这就是到光可以香港人那是吧了我们家当我的等的就我就那么没个人在那没个被嘛个就我就给这个工作那那这个看我们我就在找的这个看个大的你啥那我这个跟家当去我就得像啥的那个人在这个工作干干做么当的这个用看我工作但我个人找的他那个个人这么大的你啥的拿过来这个跟家当我经过这个我呢这个我这个意思我工作是个这个别的这么用看我这么个人找的他那个个人这大的你啥的拿过来这个跟家当我经过这个我呢啥的经过这个我可能我跟我们当的这么用看我个人找的他那个个人这大的你啥 Jubal and Toyabes, these are two don't and Magomba Sangi, to Bazam Robert, but you before the Tsulnam to KJ was a lot to KJ was to some in there. These are the same thing as on the law, Mrs. on the down Taro near the way such a man of years, but then Robert over to do the good in the town of Tour, but on the whatever at the time, and the Mungu. He had it for my own to the college of Badashan, was but I don't give an Tanaka, my own music, but you could have a no sort of Udia Bomba, but you can do what I'm going to do. I'm a low unit of what you were saying about here, now high here, came on over you in the Cuba, what I'm going to do. Yada to go to another to Nicola di Masari, the Taman Polo, the Taman of the unit, the Taman of it. But what been a Taman of the Young without the color, you're going to be able to Rangale banana tongue around was the Cantero de la Manji, Maraja, Mamma, Rangus cook, more shiverty, Chunang, Yadam, the Lion, Maraja, Tonga to the Namadan, the young, even Maraja Mushibat, Atato, the energy, Yadam, the Mukin, and the Mabatan, Guzubus, and you can tell them, Hadachi to the Maduna, young Shako, the Tondo to the Yusovan, Senajaman of the Dia, the Moin Shako, the Tondo to the Yan, Jumdin and Beda Heritage of London, I guess, again, Yakoyom, Window, Sato, young better than the corner to be going to do better much as over under the Shannon, Maraja, the Kokoro Shivaji, Churanga, Yadan, the Lion, the Maraja, to me to do some Moshi, but the Toa to Yano, she, the way Yadan, the Moshi, the Nizam. Tunnel good book of Sanjay when you're young, let up here, and then another dinner to be more than the Shabbat, Tunnel in the only young, whatever, and Senator. Without the Geta give my own when you just have to tunnel in the dinner heritage of Kunos and Nagaro Saro, the young number of Saroy, the Tamuna, the Pavana, Kanatama, the Pidana, unit, the Muna, Pavana, Pinatama, the younger than the Roda, and going to go away, even going to the young Medoma, the Monday, Mama, poor Mushi, but the Churangi Yadam, I am Mara, it's only 2 needed. You remember what you are Moshi, but I'm not over what you got over your Moshi, needs some effort on the Sunday when you were young, get a motor, the Pachang in the 30, Manda, Tina to be Yadam, the Mashiba, change it on Moma, Tuna, Shatu, Chilpa, Kano, Pemari, Sabon, Motor, and the Nation, when the Bulan, the Geta, give you my own, but you do, you all the Tano Pemari, Tony Pemahero, which is over Konokana. Saro Yard, Maru, Mana, Savan, the Mona Pema, Pavana, Katamana, you Tamuna, Pavana, Benamarca, Tamana, my own Pemato, the Marco, Eben, Gorna, today, but don't make it out of Bayan, Johan, Lebanon, no man to the Madi, Mara, Mama, Bati, Ranga, the Boko, Moshiba, the Churanga, Yadam, the Lion, the Mandi, Mara, Mugati, Moshi by the drawing of the Mochi, the way you get them the line, Moshina, you don't know the Sanji when you're the mortgage of Pacha in the city. Not that in a tribute, Yadam the more Matuba City, young Shah, Junior, the tunnel later, the Korama, the Tamima, the Wazoman, and so on the moment she got up on Mochiba and Sendajaman. The Ghetto, the Giver my own, Junior, somewhere to the tunnel later, the Kama Helvisa, Jana, Gazarga, Rivashaya, Yama, Basaya, Roye, Tamara, Provana, Karagato, the Tamana, Provana, Betatana, Garanama, Yam, Karmato, the German, Yadam on the Ranga, Lebananga, Zanga, Yadam, Maraja, Manga, Ranga, the Kokomo, Turanga, Yadam, Limbe, Maraja, Tuna, the Toyota, Win, Mavada Toma, Mavada Gavatu, Moshi, Bada Toanya, Moshi, the Wayadam, Moshi, and the Mabatan, Sanji, the Lama, the Moshi, and the Sindi. Some Tomata, the Ansindi, soft that are in the Tom, Madonna, Hada, the Motive in the motive and Sanda, and Jovada, and the Tano, Cochilla, you know, one of the Butter, Danajin, Motum, the Tomata, Rana, Yadan, Moshi, and Hakambo, so my cover the city report on the Ramzo was a mountain, did a Rana, Rasha, Rando, and Hadi Mata, Randa, the Tovan, did that. The more to Matana Kaza, Zambo Indian, then a cello, Koro, Jamatana Corridor, and Kanoma, the Tamingo, Lebanon, the Tuneron, Katomi, Yamote, and the Senedian, Pulan, the Kato. And I usually my Rang Lebanon, the Koroma, so the General, the Rang Lebanon, the Koroma, we were on the Unabena, Kamana, Ranjana, Manjari, and the Serum, the Yaman, the Tomo, choosing the Janama, Sana
Vedala Namo to Jedam Vedama, Kamana, Sharazona, Pugasa, Belata, Kamazuna, Dojero Galazoan, Zona, Sedam, Lugo, Second Megan, Bodu, Yama con la Lebanon, the Tome, Rajo, the Magic, the people of my good, and Sanaga, Monas, and Logan, and Kayan on the road, or the Robas, Sandra, Mogaman, Tabago, the Lani, Dodon, and the Salamokanamo. Mango di Yebe, the Bayan Bejumazo, our Tata was on the Kayamo, the Lavani, the Rokan, the Mutu, the Tawai Kaluta, the Saudi, the Talakan, the Wazona, Kangamata, Manatu, the Janakola, Namazona, Kagam, the Benatona, the Savana, and the Nobody, the Yuri, I mean, you were Kanayama go around Lebanon, the Money, Kanyat, and the Motivati, the Goma, Lebanon, and Motivati, Lebanon. Taraka, chicken, the Vajado, Malona, Patos, and which I want the Manon, the Son of Mojaro, and the Domajo, the Matacoma, Lebanon, and Chadoma, Yadani, Motivati, the Terra, set of the ones so many get a Gomina, the Jet and Sonia, not over the Lebanon, and Tonero, and Tela Maja, I gather the Ramhang, but the Motivati, to do the Lamadan, the Regibution, Simon Yamala, Thomas, Malana, Bemaziman, Tajin, Simon, Simon, Monosengo, the Sana, Colonel, Genoma, Tengoma, Lana, Dungo, Jessica, Tongoma, Lana, Gigato, the Cagan, but Lebanon, Ramajaro de la Majamaya, the Gibazona, do this Mokong, with the Lana, put it over the Shivaman, Muchingo, the Lana, Tomato, the Duzaman, the Lana, Pemato, the Davagan, with the Lana, do it over the Pedujana, with the Lana, you do the Simus and the Lana, Tordado, Valo, and the Mato, Lebanon, Tunerana, Lanchadomo, Tela Majishi, the Savajana, Sargu, the Lana, the Government, the Lana, the Toji, Muchum, the Lana, you go over the Zimuman, Chen, the Lana, to the Jivan, the Van. Pushing body on the song, Marjan Shalvan, Nona, Coba, the Baron, Nobian, Germato, the Banana, Ramajaro, Tela Madia, the Jibo, Sana Long, Mojan, Godi, Lana, Body, Sodan, the Momo, Moji, the Common, Pagodi, Lana, but the Rimamo Cadago. Lana, Shin Jones, and Banaji, Jana, Godi, Lana, the Matala, the Son of Godimato, the Banana, Tela Magia, the Commander, the Goma. Non gioca che Lebanon e non erano già da chiaro, no, dove come quello Lana, c'è che non sono due sono Rangoma Lana, c'è quando non lo dove ma Mosang e Godi già non era santo, diciamo Rangoma Lana, per quando non abbiamo con il Lebanon e non erano già. Sono mani che già era che già poco Ramzo, che sono anche io non che chiugo tumba c'è da chiava fare che vai non ci poi non so se c'è da ciù da che vai non ci poi Lebanon hanno da già di tempo non erano Chabutunda Kanchar Tamja Rangar, Randan Randan, Shawashina, Pemata, Tanago, the Sanji, Teramo Makina, Chitana, she did the Lion Zona, Teramo Makina, Talam, Loto, Shinja, and Tona, Tandong, Thousand Jezona, Tago, Jello, Ranan, Wilson, and Colonial, Magimata, and Koram, and Shava, the and the Chava, Nakatan, and then on the other summer, Tamaya, Jubis was also in Telamata, Nazitam, Yoda, and Jaran, Yoda, and Java, Teranga, the machine around. Ramudo is a member than a sound is a Poju Tunan Gita, no Soya Rana, Motivati, was a Rana, Moshivati, Telamachina Tadaran, Adarama, Sanjevala, Telamino, Sosanji, she saw the Tarin, you want to know you let him around the Tadamo Machina Tana, Shevakot and Yungomana, we have a true and a tinny tweet there, correction. Rana did the son of Mujira. Ranamo Machina, Kando, Jutam, Gavachu, said, and some Ranamo China, native, the Turkey, the Sandio. Ranamo Machina, Shamata, the Chinibato, Chini, Chudi, Jabuko, Chini, Chudi, Jabuko, and Father, Yaman, Romana, the Jibi, Kantamote, Yazuma, American, the Bato, Musubati, or Lana Target, or Kana, Jusu, Lebanon, Voluntary, and Indian. Data on Jibin, or Data now I can assume that you water Kawama, Tuna Pocket, you may say about the Towa and you want to be the Tona Chutumbo, Yimbe, Tenam, because the Hindi and the Randana Shava, 진도 도바미도 동반이도 뚜니데 라미니도 주는데 그것을 랑켜마도 서로의 쉐바를 토고를 타는 논의를 여우대 신지스님 주바라 소모도 도바미가 타죠 대대기는 지가 던져 라사도는 이섬에 같은 상제반적으로 대다 마히는 여담제 사이노 다 과든탕 소바는 점을도 그च्या든지 오냐면 무바 두동도 근조상 뒤에서 제마치 죄랑게 여담제 사강인바 대마치 세는 부게 다 봐도 그러면 이거 남다들 투리성이 여담을 뭐지 부다서 왔다게 전화를 라는 세는 부 요라 바돈 장의 여배 남다도 투비 마당 길어서 왔다게 장동을 하서는 무가 길어서 왔다게 만난다 여동 제만 바자는 거 형은 나는 지금 방어 올라는 준비기도 나도 이거 풍소지 전에도 바도 좀 통해도 양도 그 산지 사회 가고 돌아다 지고는 나는 또 무슨 일이든 산지 남자 두지 주소는 나다 바든 지고면 주지기 사회는 저들도 문제 맞다 바도 라무시 바교 셔다도 그런 저들도 문제도 바도 무시죠 레니 왕도 동안 연자는 여다 동안 사회 주니 란던 독동들잖아 탐지 유독들은 저렇게 잠이 내지지선 단들도 두기 팀보다 저러서 바뀌어야 좀 고만인데 와서 되고 듣는 저것도 용을 하나 따라마다 산재는 신호 통해서 되게 무기하고 자보다 제가 만나도 진짜 탐지 야는 니벌는 주는 거 산재반 저와 같이고 마인시 지린소마도 봐도 주는 때는 그 제다 지금 렌토는 제다 그냥 뭐들 메시도 단나 제다서 좀 말은 바도스 마세바 바도는 참 부게 대응도 어떻게 받대 놓게 공식적으로 강하게 치가 바래 좀 추바만 들은다면 또 탐이도 공부 채워나는 배는 춘이 남경 순비들도 또도 못해 받아 냠냠이 여반는지 체크 바도 사실부터 또 친의 제가 순비들 냠냠이 가지고 양순비들 상하게 라이트도 그만하는 춘이 바도를 시도 나와서부터 또 친의 제가 유튜브 대회도 순비들이 제발 바도 틀었는데 예를 신도 상마세바나 가져온데 장을서 권초버서 라버서 출진의 예를서 두섬도 맞아봐 라버서 측동 예를 신도 써서 시마 제티는 송연디 측동 예를 맞이버서 근데 틀을 좀 무시 사와이면 참매 방나서 범매 나름도 투네 이번 원조로 뒤에서 통지는 라버서 버버서 때다 렌즈 초에 동마도저 바도저 바 원조를 제사던도 때 뒤서 책책경 맞이 버테만조로 뒤서는 순비도 건져 나와도 다음에 바고는 해서 라버서 히어로 탐지 잡자로버서 대체버서 온다는 최반의 가와신의 상황에는 소사기 접어서만 나도 다른 최바가 가된 전에 로션을 가운데는 튀는 로다 맞이 버코는 원조로 뒤선들 친데 기별에서 온다는 취탐지의 귀는 버드다마 티바던지 저 대바던지 저 바도 투로지미 시사와 주님 바도모로 조서 주진여다 산제제 토기스 산제제 세제도 저거 깔만한 거 조서 딘전당 감보다제로 라딘기 가세바난다 때네 상대 딘정오 디심조 취재는 말아 까운데다 딘 거를 저야 진다를 말아 까고서 디 정도 당나가 담만데 그거시서 디지게 산제제 때문에 소드네가 탐제도 다긴지 얘는데 벌조지 답들에 디 니춘이 바도기 니투로테 롱 주다 시바 바도다 답들은 투투근 단사 말을 텐데 네 나나 신답자 네 주마티안도 제 바도기 답들을 볼로 투로도 때자뇨 그상 보는데 오늘 투로도 들이 어디를 주셔야 돼 뭐도 그래서 대한에서 지마 이제 남녀인 용들 때문에 되지나 저와대 주축 하진 나사 말에 그래
Rinpoche taje di jalon nande kapso dina disoin ba di gyo bogi do di thoji japshain di
다소 투지나 야셔 주순 나사 말에
Olas
투지나
Olas Rinpoche So this completes Rinpoche's oral transmission, but he didn't get to the Bardo of becoming today, but the rest.
Rinpoche, on behalf of Lama Tenzin and Kamasanam Garjaling, I would like to thank you. Words cannot thank you. Words are inadequate. Words are no good. And any offering would be not enough to show you our great appreciation for this teaching and transmission of these things. Thank you.